Hey everyone. Hope you're all doing well. We're all about bringing high-quality web novel audiobooks to life, and most of our content is completely free to enjoy. Just a quick note, web novels and web novel audiobooks aren't the same thing. Simply reading a novel out loud doesn't always make for a great listening experience. That's why I go through multiple rounds of rewriting and careful editing for every chapter to make sure the narration flows naturally and immerses you in the story, just like reading it yourself. These audiobooks are not just direct copies of the original novels. I've adapted them for a smoother, more engaging experience. And to be fully transparent, these adaptations are made for commercial purposes, so some chapters are paid content. But don't worry, this process is fully copyright compliant. I do all of this because I truly love web novels and audiobooks. I'm a huge fan, and this story is one of my personal favorites. YouTube update: recently, YouTube flagged some of our content for including mature themes, realistic violence, and darker story elements. As a result, we've decided to stop uploading anything that violates YouTube's guidelines. If you'd like access to the full, uncut versions including the more intense or mature content, you can find them on our Patreon page, where we upload everything first. Available now on Patreon: I Am a Legendary Boss audiobook, Versatile Mage starting with the White Tiger Pendant, Naruto the Wind Calamity, the Necromancer is amassing troops like crazy in the apocalypse, the mighty dragons are dead, Naruto, leader of Hidden Grass Village, Naruto Uchiha's Unserious Saga, your lord has a screw loose, Apocalypse I can see the health point bar, killing monsters drops loot, Starsea Fleet Age of the Lord, my monster fuses everything, Naruto, I traveled with a max level account, Fate in Bleach Unlimited Blade Works, killed for 100 years in Hueco Mundo, Aizen invited me to Soul Society, the world conquest giving birth to become a god, my master only breaks through on the edge of death, Bleach the Invincible Slacker from Rukongai, Naruto's Special Shop, One Piece the strongest female pirate cruise, Reborn as Danzō's grandson, must I offend the entire ninja world, Naruto starting with snatching the Mangekyo Sharingan, Naruto Card King, in Hueco Mundo with Shindu template, Naruto the Hidden Danzō, my journey as 4th Kusagakure, Naruto Troublesome Ninja Haruto, Naruto the Hyuga Mastermind, Bleach the strongest Shinigami, Bleach the 5th Division Captain, Fate Ultimate Antagonist, Fate of DXD, Fate I Heard After Death, you can ascend to the throne of heroes, Fate DXD Archer Reborn, Fate beginning with Type Moon, a Berserk Heart, Fate Grand Order Insert, One Piece take the Uchiha clan to the Grand Line, One Piece don't worry, I'm a doctor, building harem and dungeon with monster girls, DXD, Multiverse the day-to-day life of the Sephiroth hero, I'm the bad guy but heroines are obsessed with me, in Naruto, I have an affair with Mikoto and Kushina, many children bring happiness, a shameless start, Naruto Reborn with a Tenseigan, Naruto sleeping Invincible, One Piece, life choice ask me to kiss marine goddess Hina, reborn as the genius son of the richest family, start by eating jacket fruit model, jacket human devil fruit, the days of being the richest man in the ninja world, the Witcher and Madara Uchiha, villain I possess the dragon Yang Dao physique, all saintesses turns into villainesses, all beautiful girls want to stick with me, interdimensional farming in another world, Naruto from Hidden Leaf Village to One Piece, and more. Most of our content there is free, and it's the best place to follow and support our work. The default audio speed is set to 3x, but if that's too fast for you, just let me know, I'm happy to adjust it. Got a favorite web novel you'd love to hear as an audiobook? Drop a suggestion. I'm always open to new ideas. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Twitter, X for the latest updates, new releases, and behind-the-scenes content. Thanks so much for your continued support and happy listening. Chapter 1, Am I 10,000 Years Late? One early morning, Cloud Mist Mountain Range. Being one of Great Zaya's most ancient primal forests, the Cloud Mist Mountain Range has always been a daunting place for mountaineers. It is not only because of the countless snakes, bugs, and ants, but more importantly, the mist that lingers for half of the year. Within a 100-mile radius, the swirling fog can easily cause even the best of mountain climbing teams to lose their way in the towering forest. Yet today, this ancient mountain range welcomes a unique visitor. Shen Yuan, wearing a thin coat and carrying a large travel bag, walked through the woods. With a military shovel in his right hand, he casually pushed away a branch to throw the snake hidden beneath to the far distance. His actions were swift and practiced. This was Shen Yuan's third day venturing deep into the Cloud Mist Mountain Range. As one of Great Zaya's few original forests, the foot of the Cloud Mist Mountains had been developed into a scenic spot, with tourists only permitted to tour with guides, to prevent them from venturing too deeply into the mountain range. Even Shen Yuan had to join a tour group and disguise himself as a regular tourist to gain access to the Cloud Mist Mountain Range. Soon after entering the scenic area, Shen Yuan chose to voluntarily leave the group and set off into the depths of the Cloud Mist mountain range on his own. The reason Shen Yuan dared to take such a risk was that he was no ordinary person. Stopping momentarily, feeling the dense mist around him, Shen Yuan stood still, his breath becoming rhythmic. A warm current circulated inside his body, driving away the chill of the early morning. After a while, with a long exhale, white mist emerged from his lips. It was like a dragon breaking through the heavy clouds, leaving a deep mark on an ancient tree a few feet away. As suspected, the turmoil in the mortal world is not conducive to cultivation. One should keep close to nature when practicing the cloud mist breathing method. After venturing deep into the Cloud Mist Mountains for just 3 days, I feel my cultivation has achieved greater progress, equivalent to half a month of previous hard practice. A smile edged the corners of Shen Yuan's lips. He's not immortal, or more precisely, not from this world. Half a year ago, Shen Yuan somehow arrived in this primal chaos world. The world's technological level was similar to the Earth he once knew before his transmigration. The only difference was that in this new world, there had always been legends of gods and demons. The Great Xian, which Shen Yuan was now in, had a long history, with traditions dating back over 3,000 years. Even though there's no solid proof on the internet confirming the existence of these celestial beings, Shen Yuan was certain that real immortals did exist in this world. Because along with him a system called Immortality Ascension came into this world. According to the Immortality Ascension system, it would provide a series of missions to help Shen Yuan ascend to the immortal world and achieve immortality. With the help of this system, Shen Yuan learned the cloud mist breathing method in the past 6 months, which was given as a beginner guide, and successfully stepped into the essence refining stage. Essence refining to chi transformation, refining chi to spirit transmutation, refining spirit to return to void, and refining void to Tao harmony are the 4 steps of immortality ascension inherited from ancient chi cultivators. In the essence refining stage, cycling spiritual force around your body amplifies the essence element, making the physical body several times stronger than an ordinary person, in preparation for the next step, refining essence to chi transformation. Upon reaching this stage, Shen Yuan could withstand extreme cold and heat, and the variation of inner breath could drive away coldness and keep pests at bay. To have obtained such an achievement in less than half a year in this new world, aside from the help brought by the Immortality Ascension system, it was also inseparable from Shen Yuan's painstaking cultivation. However, the cloud mist breathing method is just the most basic method. Shen Yuan needs to learn follow-up methods if he wants to break through the essence refining stage, and this leads to the beginner's guide of the Immortality Ascension system. With this in mind, Shen Yuan glanced at the system interface's display. Beginner's guide, hold the Immortality Ascension token and go to the Cloud Mist Mountain range to join the Falling Cloud sect, to obtain the Purple Cloud's elemental chi refinement method. It seemed like a simple task given the label Beginner's Guide. Shen Yuan thought he could easily complete the task and went to the Cloud Mist Mountain range shortly after entering the essence refining stage. However, after wandering in the mountain range for 3 full days, Shen Yuan hadn't even caught sight of the so-called Falling Cloud sect. If it wasn't for the Immortality Ascension token in his possession giving a faint indication, confirming the Falling Cloud sect's direction, Shen Yuan would have lost his way in these mountains and given up long ago. Even so, finding the Falling Cloud sect within the Cloud Mist Mountain range was not an easy task. Logically speaking, the Cloud Mist Mountain range, which covers 1,000 miles, should be the territory of the Falling Cloud sect. I came here with the Immortality Ascension token, the Falling Cloud sect should have sensed its presence. But I haven't encountered anyone from the Falling Cloud sect so far. Could this be the old cliché of secretly observing and testing one's mettle? Shen Yuan couldn't help but grumble to himself. But regardless, he had come all this way, and the faintly glowing Immortality Ascension token in his arms seemed to be reminding Shen Yuan that the Falling Cloud sect was just before him. It would be impossible for him to give up halfway. He traveled through hills and rivers, and from morning until the sun was leaning towards the west, did Shen Yuan reach a mountain stream. The clear spring water flowed down from the cliff. Ascending mist in conjunction with the afterglow of the sunset illuminated the place like a fairyland. Occasionally a few roe deer drank from the spring, curiously inspecting Shen Yuan, this unexpected visitor. This is the place. Shen Yuan took out the already warm Immortality Ascension token from his arms, continually scanning the surrounding environment. As a cultivator, he could feel this area seemed to be covered by a layer of spiritual energy as if it was obscuring something. Sect formation? Invisible barrier? Or is it some sort of entrance to grotto heavens? Shen Yuan's eyes sparkled slightly, holding the Immortality Ascension token and curiously observing the surrounding environment. But soon Shen Yuan noticed something was not quite right. Shen Yuan had traveled through mountains and rivers to reach the Falling Cloud sect. Whether they would accept or reject him, someone should have shown up by now. The current situation, it didn't look like there was a hidden sect at all. As he continued to transfer essence into the Immortality Ascension token using his breathing method, a misty fog rose from the mountain stream in front of him, with flowing purplish gases within it. Then, as if layers of folded space opened up, a whole new world appeared before Shen Yuan. It was a world filled with pavilions and eaves. The delicate architectures were constructed on the peaks, and the winding stairs stood around the hills, extending above the sea of clouds and giving off numerous glorious radiances. Anyone who saw this scene would praise its celestial ambience. However, this view merely lasted an instant, and the next moment the illusion in front of his eyes shattered. Ultimately what appeared before Shen Yuan was nothing but a collapsed peak. The remaining edifices were already occupied by a large number of plants. The mottled cracks in the sky tore the sea of clouds, presenting a scene of desolation. What used to be a grotto heaven's sacred land had now transformed into ruins. At the entrance to the grotto heaven's sacred land, a huge stone stele stood erect. On it was an ancient inscription, leaving behind an enduring sense of indignation and resentment. In the 9th year of the Great Yin, the mortal emperor terminated the immortal path with divine might, hence there was no more mortal path in the world. Unwilling to accept this, the old man, having proved himself an earth immortal with the grotto heaven's sacred ground, took the sect to ascend into the clouds but was met with a great catastrophe. The legacy of the falling clouds, which had lasted for tens of thousands of years, was destroyed in an instant. The ancestral master once divined the future. The Taoist who can save the falling cloud sect from its peril, where on earth is he? Looking at the ancient writing on the stone stele, Shen Yuan paused, his mind in a daze. The history of this world is long-standing. In addition to the current Great Xian, there were also the long ears of Great Qin, Great Yu, and 100 warring states. It's been over 10,000 years since the 9th year of the Great Yin. The falling cloud sect was destroyed thousands of years ago. Did I arrive here 10,000 years too late? Chapter 2. The miserable transmigrator and the artificial intelligence system. 1. At first, after transcending and realizing that he carried a system, Shen Yuan was ecstatic. In his previous life, he had no ties and no regrets after he transcended. However, the world he now inhabited seemed peaceful on the surface, but its history was turbulent, filled with numerous myths and legends. If he could embark on the path of cultivation in this lifetime and potentially achieve immortality, wouldn't that be more interesting than his previous mundane life? What's more, Shen Yuan now had a system as an aid, a staple of a protagonist. Although Shen Yuan did not consider himself a man of destiny, he had the confidence to establish his place in this world, thanks to the help from the system. However, before he could get through the newbie tutorial phase, a shocking event took place right before his eyes. Following the newbie tutorial, he joined a hidden sect, only to discover that the sect had been extinct for 10,000 years. What should have been manageable newbie guidance had turned into a disastrous start. Of course, if it were merely a matter of not being able to join the sect, Shen Yuan would let it slide. After all, his greatest reliance was the Immortality Ascension system. Even without a sect acting as a pillar of support, everything would still be manageable as long as he had the system. However, the key issue was newbie guidance. Head to the Cloud Mist Mountain Range with the Immortality Ascension token to join the Falling Cloud sect and you will obtain the Purple Cloud's Elemental Chi Refinement method. The newbie tutorial still showed as incomplete in red on the system interface. What on earth is wrong with your newbie guidance system? The sect had been extinct for 10,000 years. Where am I supposed to complete the tutorial? The system interface was a blur, seeming to be stuck somehow. After quite a while, a string of text popped up. System, the host can access the Falling Cloud sect with the Immortality Ascension token and complete the newbie tutorial mission. Shen Yuan's eyelid twitched uncontrollably, a sense of powerlessness rising within him. He had been in contact with the Immortality Ascension system for half a year now, and during this time, he realized that the system didn't have any intelligence to speak of. It provided answers purely based on preset logic. In comparison, Zio Buddy could be considered a genius. Now, the benefits from the hidden sect were gone, but as long as he has the Purple Cloud's Elemental Chi Refinement method, Shen Yuan can still cultivate on his own. At most, his cultivation progress would be slower. Having formed his words, Shen Yuan tried another way of asking. If I fail to complete the newbie tutorial mission, where else can I acquire subsequent cultivation techniques? System, the host should first complete the main and side missions. Shen Yuan's eyes lit up, and he hurriedly asked, how can I complete main and side missions? System, please complete the newbie tutorial and join the sect, then you will be able to start the main and side missions. I knew I shouldn't have been hopeful about this artificially unintelligent system. Shen Yuan's face darkened, and he couldn't help but mutter to himself bitterly. With the newbie guide being stuck in such an unexpected way, Shen Yuan could only pin his hopes on the Falling Cloud sect's grotto heaven, sacred ground that lay before him. Having produced the almighty earth immortal who had led the sect to ascend, the Falling Cloud sect must have had some foundations. Perhaps, if he looked carefully within, he could find techniques for refining essence to chi transformation. At that point, he wouldn't have to rely on the artificially unintelligent system. Shen Yuan would be able to continue his cultivation on his own. With this in mind, Shen Yuan carried his backpack and boldly stepped past the barrier of the grotto heaven. Although he was stepping on solid ground, the spatial change when crossing the barrier of the grotto heaven made Shen Yuan feel a wave of dizziness, as if the world was spinning upside down. If Shen Yuan hadn't been many times stronger than an ordinary person by setting foot on the path of cultivation, he certainly wouldn't have been able to keep his footing. It was only after he had stood still and adjusted slightly, that Shen Yuan truly started to examine this grotto heaven. The grotto heaven was a realm in itself, but there was no sun. The fragmented sky above was lit by a white light illuminating the grotto heaven. The key part of the grotto heaven on the ground was a majestic mountain peak. This enormous peak, which reached straight into the clouds, seemed to be broken off by a supreme force and formed a huge abyss on the ground. Shen Yuan navigated through the ruins of pavilions and terraces, surrounded by a decayed atmosphere. Yet, all he saw were empty, desolate scenes with not a single corpse or piece of clothing in sight. Upon pushing open a wooden door, he found a broken loft desk with a wine pot and a dust-covered jade cup. The grotto heavens had preserved their original form over these 10,000 years, allowing Shen Yuan to witness the scene just before the disaster struck. Someone was still at the table, toasting and drinking heartily. Yet, as Calamity descended, it was as if all inhabitants were erased by an invisible hand. Sensing an inexplicable chill, Shen Yuan dared not touch the gold and silver objects recklessly. Instead, he quickened his pace to search for useful books. However, as he delved deeper, a bigger puzzle confronted Shen Yuan. Within the entire grotto heavens, all books related to cultivation had their words erased, leaving behind only blank volumes. Whether it was golden paper, silver inscriptions, stone steel carvings, or the legendary jade strips imbued with divine sense, all had been completely erased. Shen Yuan spent a whole day searching throughout the grotto heavens, only to find a few diary-like books and a golden scroll enshrined in a grand hall. Due to his fear of the barren grotto heavens, Shen Yuan didn't linger after completing his search but instead, left the grotto heavens and temporarily set up camp outside. Sitting by the campfire, he attracted night insects and small animals with its light, and occasionally, wild cats and squirrels would perch on nearby trees, curiously observing Shen Yuan. Flipping through the diaries, Shen Yuan felt relief for having intensely studied the ancient script of the world during the past few months since contact with the artificial intelligence system enabled him to barely understand the content of these diaries. The diaries were mostly written by disciples of the Falling Cloud sect, particularly those at the very bottom of the hierarchy. The content primarily included achievements of fellow disciples, their infatuations, and their unfortunate defeats in sect competitions. The only useful information might be some hints concerning minor spells, yet there was still no substantial cultivation content. With his last glimmer of hope, Shen Yuan unfurled the exquisite golden scroll. However, upon seeing its content, Shen Yuan's hope turned into disappointment. The scroll held no cultivation techniques, just a series of names. With the knowledge he had gathered recently, he managed a half-guess, half-understanding read of the first few characters at the top of the scroll. Sect Master's Directory? Shen Yuan's gaze moved to the end, only to discover that the area which should have contained names was blank, exactly like the erased cultivation content. Shen Yuan heaved a long sigh, his face filled with disappointment. Unable to find any cultivation content in the ruins of the Falling Cloud sect, his journey to the Cloud Mist mountain range could only be deemed a complete failure. It seems I will have to return and see if I can find the following techniques elsewhere. The artificial intelligence system can't be relied upon. With these thoughts, Shen Yuan was about to throw the diaries and scroll into the fire, but decided against it after some consideration. The artifacts left behind by the Falling Cloud sect from 10,000 years ago were antiquities in their own right. Such things were best kept hidden due to their uncertain origins. However, they were also worthy of being collected. He glanced at the blank spot at the end of the golden scroll and, on a sudden whim, picked up a piece of charcoal from the campfire and used it to write his name. Even though the Falling Cloud sect has been wiped out, surely there's no harm in leaving my name to fulfill my fantasy of being a sect master. The partly burned charcoal broke apart during the writing, leaving crooked characters that marred the elegant ancient charm of the golden scroll. Just then, a familiar voice suddenly rang in Shen Yuan's ears. System, after enduring trials and tribulations, the host has been listed in the sect master's directory, with no opposition from the ancestors, elders or elders of true teachings in the sect. System, congratulations to the host for becoming the current sect master of the Falling Cloud sect, completing the hidden achievement, Sect Master. Reward, Earthly Destroyer Divine Power, Potts Heaven. System, the host has successfully joined the Falling Cloud sect as Sect Master, completing the Beginner's Guide. Reward, Purple Cloud's Elemental Chi Refinement Method. Chapter 3, Earthly Destroyer Divine Power. Pot's Heaven. One staring blankly at the system interface before his eyes, Shen Yuan found himself dumbfounded. One moment he was stuck navigating the beginner's guide, and the next, after simply placing his name on a scroll using charcoal, he inexplicably became the sect master of the Falling Clouds sect. The disparity was so shocking to Shen Yuan that he found it hard to believe. Moreover, the last message on the system notification that he had completed the newbie guide task by becoming the sect master of the Falling Clouds sect, plunged Shen Yuan into a lengthy silence. Well, after all, the sect master of the Falling Clouds sect is also a member of the Falling Clouds sect. So, completing the task in this way makes logical sense. Bullshit. This is completely different. Forcibly ignoring the flawed logic of the artificial intelligence system, Shen Yuan moved his gaze from the system interface to the shining golden scroll in front of him. He had managed to decipher the meaning of the sect master's directory earlier, but he never expected such a simple scroll to exert such enormous influence over the sect leader's inheritance. Based on this, the last blank entry on the list likely referred to the sect master of Falling Clouds who, despite having reached the realm of Earth Immortal, attempted to ascend to heaven with the entire sect. Due to the Great Schism, the sect master responsible for the ascension attempt got his name wiped out, leaving a blank spot in the sect master's directory and giving an unexpected advantage to Shen Yuan. Normally, in addition to having one's name in the sect master's directory, to become the sect master it was also required to notify the Ancestral Hall, Elder's Temple, and True Teachings Palace, and one could only succeed if no one is opposed. If this had occurred 10,000 years ago, it would without a doubt have been an extremely difficult task. Only with the support of all major factions and compelling strength could one become the sect master. But for today, 10,000 years later, it presents a completely different concept. The Falling Clouds sect had been annihilated 10,000 years ago, hence no one could crawl out of their grave to oppose Shen Yuan's succession. In this way, Shen Yuan, in an inexplicable turn of events, managed to bypass the newbie's guide gridlock and became the sect master overnight. Having sorted out the cause and effect, Shen Yuan looked at his crooked handwriting, his mouth twitching subconsciously. So, did I just beat a system bug with another bug? Indeed, you can't apply normal judgment when dealing with an artificial intelligence system. Just after a few complaints, Shen Yuan shifted his attention to the rewards he had gained from completing the tasks. As for this so-called sect master identity, Shen Yuan did not hold any expectations. The Falling Cloud sect had been annihilated for tens of thousands of years and not a shred of inheritance was left behind, making his title of sect master an empty one. In contrast to the empty title of sect master, Shen Yuan was more interested in the rewards of this task. The Purple Cloud's Elemental Chi Refinement Method was the long-awaited follow-up cultivation method for Shen Yuan and needed no further elaboration. Compared to the entire cultivation journey, Cloud Mist Breathing Method could only be considered a basic technique. Despite cultivating it to the peak stage, one could only achieve a physical condition several times stronger than ordinary people and possess a powerful essence element. If confronted with modern firearms, it would still be powerless. But if Shen Yuan cultivated the Purple Cloud's Elemental Chi Refinement Method and progressed to the Chi transformation stage, he could display the true capabilities of a cultivator and enter a domain that ordinary people could not reach. Of course, when compared to another reward he obtained, the insignificant Purple Cloud's Elemental Chi Refinement Method wasn't worth mentioning. At this thought, Shen Yuan extended his right hand and a jade gourd, as if illusionary, fell into his palm. The palm-sized gourd encapsulated a vast expanse of space within. On the system interface in front of Shen Yuan, a few large characters were clearly displayed. Pot's Heaven, 16th of the 72 earthly destroyers divine power, in drunken stupor, I embrace the universe, in the pot much time hath gone. This divine skill allows one to create space using spirit objects as the foundation according to the principle of the mustard seed and Mount Meru coexisting. When cultivated to the peak stage, this technique can develop into Grotto Heaven's blessed land, achieving the status of an Earth Immortal. Subsequent promotion direction. Unable to query due to insufficient realm status. Although Shen Yuan had already anticipated this upon seeing the earthly destroyer divine power, he still couldn't help but show joy when he truly saw this Pot's Heaven technique. The 36 heavenly generals, 72 earthly destroyers, these 108 divine skills are not ordinary council spells, but originated from the immortal world's immortality divine skills. Many spells in the world have the shadow of heavenly general and earthly destroyer divine power, which can be said to be the source of all laws. What's more crucial is that divine skills, unlike spells that require mana to drive, even ordinary people can cast them once they master them. However, the effect they can exert is far from being comparable to that of an advanced cultivator. With his right hand slowly holding the emerald gourd in his hand, Countless pieces of information emerge in his heart, and the divine skill law is already integrated into Shen Yuan's memory. It seems to have become a part of Shen Yuan's body. He casually picked up a hard plastic water bottle for drinking water from the ground and lightly touched it with his right index finger. The divine sense follows the pot's heaven divine power into the bottle. The originally small space is like being forcibly ripped apart by an invisible giant hand, and then the nested space begins to extend continuously. The appearance of the bottle has not changed, but the internal space has expanded several times in an instant, and its internal space volume is still increasing. Suddenly, the bottle in Shen Yuan's hand made a crunchy sound, and cracks appeared all over the outside of the plastic water bottle. Seeing this, Shen Yuan quickly threw the bottle away. The next moment space fractures crawled all over the bottle, the collision of internal and external spaces easily tore the ordinary object apart, and then a large amount of violent space rift completely swallowed the bottle. Shen Yuan looked at the place where the bottle disappeared, his brows slightly furrowed and he muttered to himself, although I know ordinary objects cannot establish stable spaces, this is too unstable. This space rift, even if a cultivator at the Chi transformation realm recklessly touches it, they can only perish. The power of space isn't something that low-level cultivators can withstand. Shen Yuan's eyes suddenly lit up. Wait. I can use ordinary objects to create unstable spaces, and then use them as space hand grenades to detonate. Although the damage range is limited, if it hits a low-realm cultivator, they will surely be seriously injured if they do not die. With this thought, Shen Yuan showed a satisfied smile on his face. If other great cultivators saw Shen Yuan creating unstable spaces as hand grenades, they might curse him as a wasteful person on the spot. It should be noted that ordinary cultivators who want to obtain a storage magical treasure, want to use the precious void stone to create space. Many advanced cultivators do not have access to storage magical treasures. As for the pot's heaven divine power, a top-level spatial divine power that can help people advance and achieve the earth immortal, it is almost all in the hands of rare great powers in the world. Absolutely no one would be bored enough to use it to create unstable spaces and play with them as hand grenades. He made another unstable space hand grenade with an empty bottle and casually threw it at a hillside not far away. The small space rift has an astonishing destructive power that ignores defenses, directly tearing the solid hillside in front of him. The broken fractures spread from the center of the space hand grenade to all directions like a spider web. In the following time, Shen Yuan made several attempts to study the relationship between the size of space created and the explosion time. While he was surprised and delighted, he also began to feel a sense of mental fatigue. Although the pot's heaven divine power has no level or mana restrictions, every time a space is opened, it consumes a lot of divine sense, which Shen Yuan can't use many times as he just entered the essence refining stage. After anxiously eating some compressed food he brought, Shen Yuan turned and went back to the tent, running the cloud mist breathing method under the moonlight in this mountain and took a rest. The whole cloud mist mountain range fell into silence as the night deepened, but outside the mountain range, a bigger storm was just about to begin. Chapter 4, Changes in Grotto Heavens 1. Accompanied by the first rays of morning light on the tent, Shen Yuan, who was running the cloud mist breathing method, slowly awakened from his cultivation state. Ever since he had a rudimentary understanding of the cloud mist breathing method, Shen Yuan had taken to replacing sleep with this method. The sensation of the rhythm of heaven and earth, attained by cycling this method, surpassed that of regular sleep. Under normal circumstances, Shen Yuan only needed to quietly cultivate for 4 hours using the cloud mist breathing method to maintain his vitality for an entire day. However, yesterday was different. Shen Yuan's cultivation time had prolonged by more than double, and only now was he able to replenish his spirit. According to his estimate, this should be due to the massive consumption of divine sense from the use of the pot's heaven divine power. Emerging from the tent, Shen Yuan began to clear up the campsite in preparation for his return. All traces from the campfire residuals to the markings of the campsite were meticulously cleaned up by Shen Yuan. The purpose of this trip had been achieved, there was no need for Shen Yuan to continue staying in the Cloud Mist Mountain range. Although the speed of cultivation within the Cloud Mist Mountain range significantly surpassed those in cities, Shen Yuan wasn't prepared to completely withdraw from society and become a cultivating hermit just yet. Furthermore, if he stayed away from society for too long and his family decided to report him as missing, it might bring about unnecessary trouble. It was better for him to return earlier. Before leaving, Shen Yuan made a special trip to observe the condition of the falling clouds' grotto heavens. Shen Yuan used the Immortality Ascension token to open the falling clouds' grotto heavens, allowing this space that had been sealed for 10,000 years to see daylight again. However, it also disrupted the balance that the grotto heavens had maintained over the 10,000 years. The grotto heavens space, that was already on the brink of collapse, became increasingly unstable. Cracks began to extend towards the ground from the shattered dome of heaven, and in less than half a day, the falling clouds' grotto heavens would collapse completely. Shen Yuan's objective for this trip had been met. All writings related to cultivation and magical artifacts treasures had been taken, only an empty shell was left. There was no point in further exploration. All that Shen Yuan did was to slightly conceal the entrance of the grotto heavens using the Pot's Heaven Divine Power's space-controlling capability, and then he chose to leave directly. In contrast to the difficulty of seeking the falling cloud sect when he first entered the mountain range, Shen Yuan faced no restrictions now. By relying on his multiple times stronger physical constitution than an average person, Shen Yuan reached the outskirts of the Cloud Mist mountain range in less than half a day. From the outskirts, he could already see the roads constructed for the scenic area and some discarded waste. There were also occasionally some tourists guided by tour guides visible on the roads. Mixing in with the crowd, Shen Yuan returned to the scenic area effortlessly and boarded a return bus. It was only on the bus that Shen Yuan switched on the mobile phone that had been turned off for the past 4 days. Numerous messages and missed call notifications made Shen Yuan's mobile phone ring incessantly. Almost all of the messages were from a number saved under the alias Elder Sister. Elder Sister, I heard you went on a trip recently. Young people should get out more. It's not good to stay home all day. Let me know if you're running out of money. Elder Sister, why didn't you reply to the message I sent yesterday? Don't tell me you're in love? Whose daughter is it? Is she pretty? Elder Sister, I heard there's a lot of trouble in Mayan Kingdom recently, with many people disappearing. Some said they were kidnapped to have their organs harvested. Others claimed that evildoers were performing hexes. Don't get tricked into going there. Elder Sister, also, don't go to the beach. I heard about radiation pollution in Ying Island. They're bringing up a bunch of strange creatures. Snakes with 8 heads have even run out from the nuclear power plant. Elder Sister, just reply to my messages. Elder Sister, you didn't really go to Mayan Kingdom, did you? Throughout the 4 days Shen Yuan spent in the Cloud Mist mountain range, his sister had bombarded him with messages like never before, and had been calling at an interval of every 2 to 3 hours. Although Shen Yan couldn't help but be amused about her speculating that he was taken to Mayan Kingdom to have his kidneys harvested, the concern and anxiety in those messages were deeply touching. Since his arrival in this world, Shen Yan had been addicted to cultivation. Due to various reasons, he had lost touch with most of his so-called friends and family from this life. Even his nominal parents paid him little mind. Only his elder sister, Shen Yu, has continuously shown Shen Yan concern, providing him considerable help in life. Over half a year, even a rock would have warmed up, let alone a living person like Shen Yan. To some extent, the reason why Shen Yan, with his casual temperament, hadn't gone to find seclusion for solitary cultivation was largely due to Shen Yu. His finger poised at the screen, Shen Yan sent out the first message in 4 days to Shen Yu. Rest assured, I am alright. Less than a minute after sending the message, Shen Yuan's phone rang. Even without checking, Shen Yuan knew who was calling. Upon answering the call, a raging voice came forth from the other end. Where on earth have you been these past few days? Feeling Shen Yu's anger, Shen Yuan pulled the phone slightly away from his ear and bluffed, I have been playing in the mountains for the past few days. I am on my way back to the rented house now, so you don't have to worry. Also, my phone is running out of battery. I will hang up now. Before even waiting for Shen Yuan to respond, Shen Yuan immediately hung up and skillfully blocked Shen Yu from calling. He was well aware that if he let Shen Yu voice her concerns, she wouldn't stop talking for hours. It would be better to let her cool down before continuing the chat. Watching the constantly flickering message logs, followed by rows of enraged cat emoticons, the corners of Shen Yuan's mouth hooked up slightly. While Shen Yuan was teasing his sister, changes within the Cloud Mist mountain range were starting to ferment. Not long after Shen Yuan left, the Zenin army blockaded several entrances leading deeper into the Cloud Mist mountain range. As for the scenic area on the outskirts of Cloud Mist mountain range, it had been suspended. All tourists were compensated and orderly arranged to evacuate to neighboring cities. Near the entrance to the Cloud Mist mountain range, engineering soldiers and machinery began to build a command center. Half an hour later, a helicopter slowly landed on the just-cleared helipad. A dignified middle-aged man dressed in bright and splendid clothes marched down from the helicopter towards the Zenin Army's command center. Behind him trailed one elder with a horsetail whisk in his hands clad in a blue Taoist robe, embodying the temperament of an immortal. The distinguished middle-aged man was the Marquis Zenin, who governed 3 provinces. The Cloud Mist mountain range was part of his jurisdiction. As early as yesterday, an astrologer from the Imperial Astronomical Bureau located in the imperial capital noticed that a grotto heaven had been opened within the territory of the Great Xia. Due to the sudden occurrence of the event, they could not accurately pinpoint the location even after applying all sorts of methods. It was not until the grotto heaven closed this morning, causing another celestial phenomenon. Did the astronomers from the Imperial Astronomical Bureau manage to determine that the grotto heaven was situated within the cloud mist mountain range using Z-Wade Shu? The moment he learned of this, the Marquis Zenon blockaded the cloud mist mountain range and invited the chief venerable of his mansion, the star-plucking Taoist, to locate the exact position of the grotto heaven within the cloud mist mountain range. The current blockade of the cloud mist mountain range's entrance may seem grand, but the Marquis Zenon was well aware that this was only just the beginning. Chapter 5, Spirit Energy Tidal Surge 1. Ever since the Great Yin's mortal emperor created the Great Schism 10,000 years ago, the spirit energy in the primal chaos realm gradually became scarce over the next few thousand years, and it was predicted by a powerful being that the realm's spirituality would inevitably run dry one day. To prevent this future occurrence, the true immortals and divine beings who remained in the mortal world took action to seal the spirit veins in this realm, establishing a spirit energy tidal surge every 3,000 years to sustain the development of spirit energy resources. In the last 3,000 years, spirit energy was depleted and cultivators fell from their high ritual altars. Power transitions resulted in various kinds of turmoil that lasted for hundreds of years. In times of chaos, the first emperor of Great Xia established the Xia dynasty and pacified the four regions, marking the birth of the present Great Xia. By now, the period of spirit energy depletion of 3,000 years has finished. With the arrival of several spirit energy tidal surges, numerous mythological creatures and transcendent cultivators have returned to the world. Many hidden sects within the Great Xia will inevitably rise by harnessing this momentum, with cultivators once again reaching the peak of power, posing a grave challenge to the existing order of the Great Xia. Without an overwhelming power from its cultivators, the existing imperial power system will inevitably find it challenging to maintain its status quo. The royal family of the Great Xia was not established by cultivators, and their cultivation foundations are lacking, making it hard for them to compete with those hidden sects. Fortunately, we are only in the early stage of the spirit energy tidal surge, and the royal power of the Great Xia and its military forces still maintain an overwhelming advantage. As long as we use the advantage of overwhelming power to hold on to the critical cultivation resources during the early stage of the spirit energy tidal surge, the Great Xia royal family will still be able to maintain their transcendent position. This is a viewpoint that everyone in the Great Xia court shares. The grotto heavens sacred ground that were opened during the spirit energy tidal surge are of utmost importance. Places referred to as grotto heavens sacred ground are either places where the sects of ancient times were founded, or blessed lands of spirit vein birthed by the universe's supreme treasures. Either type represents undeniable value. Especially during the times of spirit energy tidal surge depletion, grotto heavens sacred ground can generate some spirit energy to sustain the cultivator's needs, sparing them from perishing due to spirit energy depletion. Unknown ancient beings are sleeping in the grotto heavens sacred ground throughout the entire Great Xia, waiting for the concentration of spirit energy to recover to a level that can support their emergence into the world. In essence, grotto heavens sacred ground is a strategic treasure within the cultivation world. Since the Great Schism, no new grotto heavens sacred ground have been born, and every grotto heavens sacred ground will face contests from many competing forces. The Cloud Mist Mountain Range covers a vast area. The Great Xia royal family might not be able to dominate all the grotto heavens sacred ground. By willingly relinquishing some of the benefits, they could gain many advantages from the hidden sects. As the person in charge of the grotto heavens sacred ground this time, Marquis Zenon is bound to gain massive benefits from it, and it may not be impossible for him to compete for a higher position in the future. With these thoughts, a sense of burning ambition rose in the heart of Marquis Zenon. Marquis Zenon gave a slight nod to the star-plucking Taoist next to him and said, "Master Star-Plucker, I hope you can undertake the task of locating the grotto heavens sacred ground." The star-plucking Taoist maintained his complacent smile and did not immediately agree. "Marquis, you should know that if a grotto heavens is concealed, even the Imperial Astronomical Bureau's superintendent would have trouble locating it precisely. I am far from being his equal and would not dare to make false statements about this matter." Marquis Zenon remained calm and replied, "Master Star-Plucker, rest assured. All we need is to get a general location of the grotto heavens sacred ground. The descendants of the Geomancy lineage are already on their way. They will use the power of Feng Shui to pinpoint the exact location of the grotto heavens sacred ground." Upon hearing this, the smile on the face of the star-plucking Taoist grew even brighter. He gave a swing of his horsetail whisk. A giant ritual altar descended, causing the entire command center to tremble slightly. The eyes of Marquis Zenon brightened as he asked the star-plucking Taoist, "You carry a ritual altar with you? Could it be that you also have a storage magical treasure?" The star-plucking Taoist shook his head and sighed, saying, "The spirit energy has been depleted for 3,000 years. Such a long time even makes it hard for magical treasures to maintain their spirituality. There are very few storage magical treasures left in the cultivation world, and it would be difficult for me to possess one. That's merely a mustard seed symbol from our Taoist door. Even though its cost is high, it can only be used once, not nearly as useful as storage magical treasure. Speaking thus, the star-plucking Taoist ascended the steps of the ritual altar. In an instant, wind and clouds converged, and within 100 meters radius of the ritual altar, the spirit energy began to gather at a remarkable speed. With the star-plucking Taoist stepping on the symbolic steps and making the Big Dipper seal with his hands, arrays of flags and commands rose into the sky from the ritual altar. As the bright daylight shimmered, many brilliant constellations converged, faintly sparkling. The star-plucking Taoist waved his wide sleeve, and dozens of spirit stones shattered in midair, intensifying the concentration of spirit energy to its peak. May the heaven-worthy star god guide the way. With a solemn expression, star-plucking Taoist bowed towards the Big Dipper star map. As the words of star-plucking Taoist fell, in the place where the stars converged, the Big Dipper transformed into a colossal compass pointing deep into the cloud-mist mountain range, resembling a guide indicating the way for mortals. The force of space set up by Shen Yuan shattered instantly under the guidance of the stellar light, revealing the falling clouds' grotto heavens to the world once again. A look of surprise flashed across star-plucking Taoist's face. He never imagined that the deductive process to locate the grotto heavens would go so smoothly, and he was just about to talk to Marquis Zenon. But at the moment when the falling clouds' grotto heavens, hundreds of miles away, was interfered with by the starlight, the balance, maintained for tens of thousands of years, was completely broken. Accompanied by a huge roar echoing in the mysterious void, the already dilapidated falling clouds' grotto heavens began to collapse at a speed visible to the naked eye, and the entrance to the current world closed swiftly. Just in a slightly perceived instance, the entire falling clouds' grotto heavens completely vanished within the cloud-mist mountain range. The sudden change left star-plucking Taoist unable to maintain his composed demeanor, and fresh blood spurted violently from his mouth. The Big Dipper star map hovering in the air above the ritual altar exploded thunderously, and a noticeable crack, emanating from under the star-plucking Taoist's feet, almost divided the ritual altar into halves. The matter of the falling cloud sect's Earth immortal attempting ascension was thwarted by a calamity, wiping out the entire falling cloud sect. How could such a secretive matter be divined by star-plucking Taoist's method of deduction from the stars? This surprising turn of events was a big shock for Marquis Zenon, who saw everything. Although the star-plucking Taoist was not from a hidden sect, he was not mediocre in his chi transformation stage of cultivation during the current time when the spirit energy tidal surge had just regained revival. Otherwise, he was not qualified to serve at the Marquis's mansion. But even such an outstanding cultivator suffered such a backlash just by predicting the location of the grotto heavens. It was something they had never seen before. Has something unexpected happened with the grotto heavens? Marquis Zenon asked with an anxious expression. Star-plucking Taoist, who suffered a backlash from the spell, was completely shocked. He did not even get a moment to lament the destruction of the altar and magic artifacts. The moment the spell backlash happened, star-plucking Taoist felt an awe-inspiring, just, and ruthless power from the depths of the cloud-mist mountain range that seemed to want to erase him completely from the world. Fortunately, that power didn't target him. After destroying the spell, it disappeared completely. Otherwise, if some remnant force fell on him, it would have been enough to erase his existence. Closing his eyes to recollect the overwhelming power, star-plucking Taoist showed a deep fear on his face, hurriedly saying to Marquis Zenon, the Marquis mansion must not get involved in the matter of the grotto heavens in the cloud-mist mountain range. Do not have any covetous intents for the grotto heavens. The grotto heavens there, are claimed. Chapter 6, Rumors 1 A coup. Shen Yuan, who had just gotten off the car, couldn't help but sneeze. He rubbed his somewhat sore nose, feeling puzzled. Having already reached the essence refining stage, simply circulating his breath for a cycle could withstand the cold or heat, so there was no possibility of catching a cold. Could it be? Someone is talking about me? Shen Yuan muttered casually before dismissing the thought, heading straight for his Rendell room. Wen City, where Shen Yuan resided, was a typical resource-based industrial city. It developed around a giant coal mine and later established numerous factories around the mine, ultimately forming a city. However, like the inevitable fate of most resource-based industrial cities, Wen City lost its vitality for development after the exhaustion of the giant coal mine, leaving a large number of abandoned factories and residential areas in the old city area. The entire city's focus was shifted to the new city area. Shen Yuan had been living in this old city area for 3 months. The primary reason for moving here was the low housing prices. He could rent a standalone courtyard just for a few hundred yuan. Although the location was remote, it was not a problem for Shen Yuan who did not have commuting needs. Moreover, Since the surrounding factories had been abandoned for more than 10 years, the absence of factory pollution made the environment of the old city area quite decent. Even the abandoned mine not far away showed signs of slight revival after more than a decade. Crossing a remote alley, Shen Yuan approached the small courtyard that spanned just over 100 square meters. Opening the rusted door lock, Shen Yuan pushed the door open. What came into view was a ground paved with broken stones and an ancient-looking wooden corridor, with lush green vines coiling around it. To the left of the courtyard, there was a lush date tree. On the square stone table beneath the tree, intersecting lines made up a Go board. However, Shen Yuan didn't know how to play Go, so the stone table carved into a Go board was of no use to him. Throwing his bag down casually, Shen Yuan sat in front of the stone table, his mind immersing itself and gradually relaxing in the familiar environment. During the trip to the Cloud Mist mountain range, Shen Yuan seemed relaxed, but his mind had been extremely tense all the way. Especially after the incident at the Falling Clouds Grotto Heavens, facing the tremendous power that wiped out all living beings in the Grotto Heavens had completely exceeded Shen Yuan's cognition, bringing his mental stress to the extreme. It wasn't until he returned to this small courtyard that belonged to him that Shen Yuan could truly relax. Sitting in front of the stone table, Shen Yuan's breath gradually became long and steady. The rhythm of the cloud mist breathing method seemed to blend into the tranquil state of his mind, emitting a profound rhythm. Time passed by every second, and the entire courtyard seemed to be fully immersed in tranquility. After an unknown period, the crisp sound of glass shattering resounded in Shen Yuan's heart. The profound rhythm brought by the breathing method began to spread in all directions, and spirit energy began to converge in an area 10 meters around him. The leaves of the date tree in the courtyard rustled, and the green radish on the long corridor swayed constantly in the breeze. The instinct of the living beings made them actively accept the spirit energy that was converging. When that spirit energy followed the rhythm of the breathing method into Shen Yuan's body and into the cycle of his major circuit, he slowly opened his eyes. A streak of cold light flashed across his clear black and white eyes, turning the gentle breeze in the courtyard into an autumn wind of stern killing intent. The branches shook, and lots of leaves fell with the wind. The leaves that had just fallen from the branches had a touch of dull yellow that did not belong to this world. But all of this vanished in an instant. When the cold light in Shen Yuan's eyes faded away and returned to tranquility, everything seemed as if it had never happened. "I've finally made the breakthrough." Shen Yuan let out a long sigh, a trace of a smile appearing on his face. After experiencing the incident at the Falling Clouds Grotto Heavens, the cloud mist breathing method he would practiced for a full half-year finally helped him complete the breakthrough, successfully transitioning from the early stage to mid-stage of the essence refining stage. The most important task during the essence refining stage is actually to accumulate and strengthen one's essence element, preparing for the subsequent refining essence to chi transformation. Therefore, there is not much difference between the early and middle stages of this stage. The cloud mist breathing method is, after all, a foundation building technique. The effect it can produce after Shen Yuan officially steps into the middle stage of the essence refining stage is already minimal. It is utterly impossible to break through to the chi transformation stage using the cloud mist breathing method. Fortunately, Shen Yuan has acquired the subsequent cultivation techniques. He can officially start cultivation of the purple cloud's elemental chi refinement method. His cultivation speed will experience rapid growth for a period, making it foreseeable that breaking through to chi transformation stage is not a difficulty. After witnessing the miserable state of the Falling Clouds Grotto Heavens, Shen Yuan began to feel an urgency to improve his own strength. As the sect master of Falling Clouds sect, no one could be certain whether the catastrophe that occurred in the Falling Clouds Grotto Heavens would similarly affect him. Before a real disaster strikes, he must gain sufficient power to protect himself. Just as Shen Yuan was about to get up and return to his room to comprehend the purple cloud's elemental chi refinement method, he suddenly heard a low rumbling sound from his stomach. Only then did he remember that he hadn't eaten anything all day. To be exact, including the few days spent in Cloud Mist Mountain Range, Shen Yuan had only been consuming some pre-prepared compressed food and had not had a real meal. Not only spirit energy, but external food was also relied on to strengthen oneself in the essence refining stage. Shen Yuan had come across some legends about ancient cultivators. In times of scarce spirit energy, a genius who stepped into the essence refining stage had to consume vast amounts of regular food to replenish his essence element. This practice even gave birth to legends about consuming an entire cow in a day. However, in modern times, the spirit energy available to Shen Yuan was nowhere near that scarce. Yet, it was still necessary to supplement it with food. Returning to his room, he glanced at the empty old-fashioned fridge. Shen Yuan then left the small courtyard, closing the gate behind him, and headed towards the local market. There weren't many people on the streets of the old city, even in the market. Only a few elderly people could be seen buying groceries for dinner. There were hardly any young people in sight. While he was picking vegetables in front of a stall, the stall owner, a middle-aged woman, was chatting about family matters. Suddenly, a comment she made caught Shen Yuan's attention. "Did you hear? Someone spotted a dragon in the old mining area." With this comment, the interest of many men and women at the market was piqued. They all started to chatter away on the topic. "Are you talking about that incident that happened the night before last? Some jobless hoodlums heard there was an ancient tomb in the old mine. They snuck in at night to rob the tomb but were scared half to death. They've been telling everyone they saw a dragon. You've all worked in the mine for so long, yet you believe such things? Well, you can't dismiss it entirely. Take a look at the internet. There are all sorts of strange things happening. Some say they saw a gorilla as tall as a mountain in Qingbai Mountain. Some even claim to have filmed a serpent with 9 heads in an abandoned nuclear power station on Ying Island. Even the Cloud Mist mountain range, just a few hundred kilometers from us, seems to have experienced some abnormalities. Marquis Zenon's residents deployed the Zenon army to block the Cloud Mist mountain range. There is hardly any news about this online. If it weren't for the fact that my second aunt's cousin works at the scenic spot, I wouldn't have known about this at all. That's why it's better to believe such things exist than to dismiss them." At first, Shen Yuan listened to the chatter of these old folks just for fun. Having lived in the old city for over half a year, he often heard rumors about the old mining area. At first, he even thought there might be some treasure in the old mine and spent half a night there, but to no avail. After a while, he became used to the rumors. However, he was somewhat stunned when he heard one of the men talking assuredly about the Cloud Mist mountain range situation. This was the first time he would heard about the Zenon army sealing off the Cloud Mist mountain range. And from the timing of the blockade, it seemed to have happened shortly after he left the mountain range. Recalling his experiences in the Cloud Mist mountain range, Shen Yuan was struck with a daring thought. Could Marquis Zenon have sealed off the Cloud Mist mountain range because of me? Chapter 7, Master of Grotto Heavens 1. The unexpected news disrupted Shen Yuan's original plans. After casually buying some vegetables, he hurried back home and immediately began to search for related information on the internet. Just as the old man in the market had said, there was no information about the seal-off on the Cloud Mist mountain range online. However, the ticket purchasing corridor on the official website of the Cloud Mist mountain range tourist area had already been shut down, and even some tourist software had been removed in advance. Nevertheless, under some previous videos about the Cloud Mist mountain range, Shen Yuan found quite a few comments about the dismissal of tourists from the scenic area, and the comment time happened to be a few hours ago. This phenomenon confirmed the credibility of the old man's words. Something unusual indeed had happened in the Cloud Mist mountain range. It is indeed possible that the Great Zaya's Imperial Court's blockade on the Cloud Mist mountain range is related to the falling clouds' grotto heavens. Shen Yuan's heart began to race. You should know that the Great Zaya is not like the Cathay of Shen Yuan's previous life. This is an ancient empire that has been handed down for 3,000 years, separated from the cycle of the dynasty. Although the court of Great Zaya cannot be called feudal and its ability to maintain for 3,000 years must have its uniqueness, Shen Yuan still finds it hard to trust this unfamiliar empire. If the falling clouds' grotto heavens are detected by the Great Zaya's Imperial Court, which leads to his secret being revealed, it may bring some unnecessary trouble to Shen Yuan. Forcefully suppressing the various thoughts that flashed in his mind, Shen Yuan began to seriously consider whether there were any loopholes in his visit to the Cloud Mist mountain range. The Cloud Mist mountain range is a very famous site in Great Zaya. These few days happen to be holidays and the daily visitor flow is at least hundreds of thousands. It's challenging to be noticed in the crowd. On my way to Falling Clouds Grotto Heavens, I was very careful. Whether it was camping traces or bonfires, I cleaned them up. I even threw the garbage into the space hand grenade before leaving no trace. Moreover, when I left the scenic area, I didn't notice any reaction from the court. The first time the grotto heavens were activated was yesterday afternoon. Even if the court was sluggish, the night would be enough to deploy troops. However, the court did not blockade the Cloud Mist mountain range immediately but only after I left. This is enough to prove that the court's understanding of Falling Clouds Grotto Heavens wasn't much, so the feedback wasn't timely. And due to the influence of the disaster, the Falling Clouds Grotto Heavens will collapse in less than half a day, and once the Grotto Heavens collapse, all related information will be annihilated in the broken space. Even the court won't have the ability to investigate then. After a bit of contemplation, Shen Yuan brainstormed the cause and effect of some events, and some concerns in his heart slightly eased. According to the comprehensive information available, the matter of Falling Clouds Grotto Heavens should not have any loopholes. Unless the court dares to lock the position of the Grotto Heavens in the last few hours before the collapse, but this is almost impossible. How can such a coincidence happen? Shen Yuan was full of confidence. At the same time, Far within the Imperial City, an angry voice rang above the Golden Throne Hall. "What did you say?" The elderly emperor sitting on the throne finally lost his usual composure. A sharp spark of light flashed in his dim eyes, and the dragon's breath from the revival of the Imperial Dragon Pulse turned into infinite pressure, pressing towards the superintendent in the hall. The dragons in the wall painting seemed to be given an unusual vitality at this moment, and their golden eyes stared straight at the position of the superintendent. The superintendent trembled, then bowed to Emperor Zai and said, "Reporting to your majesty, this news was personally narrated by the star-plucking Taoist, the chief of Marquis Zenon's residence, and stealth guards investigated 53 soldiers in attendance at the time confirmed the situation. Furthermore, the star viewing platform has indeed lost trace of the grotto heavens of the Cloud Mist Mountain Range. This result has only two possibilities. One is that the grotto heavens collapsed and are difficult to trace, and the other is that someone blocked the observation of the star viewing platform. The former is extremely unlikely. With the arrival of the spirit energy tidal surge, no one has the ability to destroy the grotto heavens in their own small worlds. So, the only thing left is the latter possibility, the grotto heavens of the Cloud Mist Mountain Range as an owner." As the superintendent's words fell, the momentum emerging from Emperor Zai suddenly dissipated, and the hall was restored to its usual calm. But under this calm atmosphere, it seemed to hide some immense pressure that made it hard to breathe. "The master of the grotto heavens." Emperor Zai sighed in his old voice, seeming to lament, but more fear. As the Emperor of Great Zai, Emperor Zai would not act this way due to the gain or loss of a grotto heaven. He cared more about the overall situation, and a mere gain or loss of a grotto heaven would not affect the real overall situation. But if this grotto heaven has a master, everything will be completely different. The grotto heavens are gifts of heaven and earth, almost equivalent to a small world, and the existing grotto heavens of Great Zai are almost all held in the hands of the hidden sects. However, even if these sects hold the grotto heavens, they are not eligible to consider themselves the masters of the grotto heavens. They are just parasites living on the grotto heavens. Only those immortals who integrate their bodies into the grotto heavens can be truly called the masters of the grotto heavens. But such a great figure can dominate one side even after ascending to the upper world, and is rare even during the prosperous era of cultivation millions of years ago. Especially before the human emperor's absolute heaven and earth passage, most earth immortals chose to ascend, and very few stayed in the primal chaos realm. Even fewer could survive the flow of time for thousands of years. Under such circumstances, a grotto heavens earth immortal returning during the recovery era of the spirit energy tide could disrupt the current situation of Great Zai. As spirit energy gradually recovers, the strength of the earth immortals who have integrated with the grotto heavens will recover at a much faster pace than other cultivators. Possessing the advantage of grotto heavens makes it extremely difficult to assassinate these earth immortals. The threats posed by the not yet awakened old monsters in the hidden sects added together are not comparable to a revived earth immortal. The superintendent said solemnly to Emperor Zai, "Before the hidden sects perceive it, we must pull this earth immortal to our side. At least, we must not push this mighty earth immortal to the sect's side." Emperor Zai's eyes were deep, and he slowly shook his head to deny, "The will of an earth immortal, how can it be manipulated by others? Before figuring out the identity of this earth immortal, we must not make any moves or actively look for this earth immortal. Next, Superintendent, please make a trip to the Blessed Lands. Seek some information about this earth immortal from the book Immortals. This earth immortal's grotto heavens appeared in the Cloud Mist Mountain Range. Its identity may be related to the Cloud Mist Mountain Range." Chapter 8, Please Stop Your Cat Body Attack. 1. As the monarch and his counselors in the Golden Throne Hall were discussing how to respond to the emergence of the almighty earth immortal, Shen Yuan, the fake almighty earth immortal, was sitting in front of his computer having a heated exchange of opinions with some netizens. In the days since Shen Yuan entered the Cloud Mist Mountain Range, a spirit energy tidal surge had once again appeared, causing various videos of extraordinary creatures and spell phenomena to surface at an increasing rate along with the rise in spirit energy concentration. Among these were many obviously fake special effect edits, and even some mosaic videos made using door locks. However, mixed within this chaotic trend were quite a few actual extraordinary creatures. Like a fox petitioning humans for a title while wearing human clothes, a spiritual monkey in a scenic spot using banknotes to buy fruit from people, and a cat that can split a tree trunk with a swing of its tail. Within the messy web of online news, the public opinion regarding the resurgence of spirit energy had already stirred up a storm. This led Shen Yuan, who had just returned to the online community, to think he had encountered a system update. Although most of it was just people jumping on the online trend without fully believing these stories, Shen Yuan was still surprised at the high activity level they were generating. Shen Yuan himself had anticipated the spirit energy tidal surge. During his half-year of cultivating the cloud mist breathing method, Shen Yuan could clearly feel the concentration of spirit energy constantly increasing. It hinted at a return to the era when spiritual cultivation thrived. In this process, it was inevitable that some transcendent beings, awoken by the infusion of spirit energy and the revival of their demon blood, would emerge. The current situation was bound to occur sooner or later. The only thing that surprised Shen Yuan was how quickly the public opinion had changed. Also, the Great Zaya's imperial court seemed to have made no effort to hide this matter and had assumed a default stance towards various opinions. The fact that the Great Zaya's imperial court exhibited such an attitude could only mean that the situation had exceeded their control. Shen Yuan found this rather amusing and watched with interest. That was until Shen Yuan commented how silly under a video of a stray cat stealing bread. A user with the ID Mysterious Taoist and a cute black cat avatar messaged him directly and demanded he delete the improper remark. The Mysterious Taoist claimed that after the resurgence of spirit energy, the monster tribe would inevitably rise to obtain rights equal to humans, and Shen Yuan's comment was an attack on the cat's identity. If Shen Yuan didn't want to face repercussions, he would have to delete his comment. At first, Shen Yuan thought it was a joke, but after exchanging a few words, he realized that the other party seemed to be quite serious, seemingly unaware of any issues with their stance. Given the Mysterious Taoist's tone and slow typing speed, Shen Yuan was sure that the Mysterious Taoist was absolutely a middle schooler suffering from second-year sickness. Shen Yuan was amused by the Mysterious Taoist's dialogue and retorted, "Is this stupid cat yours?" He didn't expect this remark to get the Mysterious Taoist riled up and spark a long and heated exchange of opinions. Mysterious Taoist, please stop your attacks on the cat. Mysterious Taoist, you know this is racial discrimination, right? Mysterious Taoist, don't think the monster tribe is weak now, but who knows what will happen after the resurgence of spirit energy. Shen Yuan, you said so much. Could it be that you are very familiar with the resurgence of spirit energy? Mysterious Taoist, such matter of the resurgence of spirit energy, those who understand it do, and those who don't won't even if I explain. Don't ask, great interests are involved, and it won't benefit you to know. I can only say the implications are profound, and the information online has been deleted. So, I can only say those who understand it do, and there's nothing I can do for those who don't. The Mysterious Taoist's message amused Shen Yuan as he began to see the other party as a naive kid. However, Shen Yuan didn't have the time to continue the argument. He had already wasted a lot of his cultivation time that day. He swiftly blocked the Mysterious Taoist and got up to prepare dinner. Bang! In an underground garage in Wen City, a cat angrily threw an old-fashioned phone onto the concrete floor. How dare he! How dare he! A childish voice echoed around the garage. The cat continually stepped on the phone screen in front of it. A huge red exclamation mark was evident in its message history. You have been blocked by the user and cannot send messages. The cat was small, about the size of a palm, and its body was as dark as night, except for its white paws that were glove-like and exceptionally cute. Only now, the tiny, exquisite face of the kitten was filled with a human-like grievance, and its heterochromatic red and blue eyes were full of anger. Next to the kitten, a Maine Coon cat, about half the height of a human, was lying down, looking at the cell phone under the kitten's feet with distressed eyes. This cell phone was a precious item they had obtained in exchange for hundreds of transparent gemstones collected from a little girl, the only one in their entire cat tribe. Only these intelligent cat demons had the privilege to use it. The ordinary cats didn't even have the right to touch it. If other cat demons handled the cell phone like this, the Maine Coon would have taught them a lesson long ago. However, it was at a loss as to what to do with the kitten in front of it. Because this kitten, not even the size of a palm, was actually the king of their entire tribe. Thinking of this, the Maine Coon lowered its body cautiously, using its big head to rub against the kitten's body, and began to comfort it. Your Highness, there's no need for you, with your noble status, to be angry with a mere mortal. We, the monster tribe, were born by the will of heaven and earth. We don't need the approval of humans who are just our food. Upon hearing this, the kitten immediately turned to look at the Maine Coon and balled its white-gloved paw into a fist, which then landed a forceful blow on the Maine Coon's face. Idiot. Idiot. Right now, spirit energy has just started to return, and our cat tribe is still weak, while humans are the rulers of this world. What we can do is to develop in secret and strive for a voice. The age now doesn't rely purely on power. They have their own civilization, and our cat tribe must integrate into it. I've noticed on the human internet that many people have surreptitiously become slaves to our cat tribe. If our cat tribe wants to expand its influence, we must use these cat slaves. The purpose of me setting up an account and filming videos about our cat tribe is for this. But this despicable human. At this point, the kitten's bright eyes shimmered with tears. The Maine Coon had taken a beating from the kitten even though its attacks didn't cause any real harm. However, the Maine Coon's face was full of grievance. "So, what are we supposed to do? We must make this human apologize." The kitten indignantly slapped its paw down as it spoke. "But your highness, since you can't even send him a message, how can he apologize?" At this, the kitten broke into a smirk of human-like satisfaction. "Humphrey. After 3 days of learning, I have mastered the most lethal weapon possessed by humans. Once I use this lethal weapon, he will surely bow to me." The Maine Coon's eyes widened, its gaze filled with anticipation. "What weapon are you referring to?" "They seem to call it a box weapon?" Chapter 9, Divine Skills Reciprocity 1. For Shen Yuan, the juvenile delinquents he encountered online were merely seasonings in life, not worth his attention. The sky outside was gradually darkening. After enjoying a sumptuous dinner, Shen Yuan started his daily cultivation. He converted a corner room in the courtyard into an independent practice chamber, which had only a meditation cushion. Sitting on the cushion, Shen Yuan directed his gaze to his system interface. "System, do you confirm to claim the novice guidance reward?" "Confirmed." With Shen Yuan's response, the completed novice guidance taskbar on the system interface gradually disappeared, and a purple book fell into Shen Yuan's hands. This was none other than Purple Cloud's elemental chi refinement method that he had previously acquired. After calming his excited emotions, Shen Yuan slowly opened Purple Cloud's elemental chi refinement method and started reading. The method of refining elemental chi is the foundation of all methods. Any cultivator needs to refine the chi of heaven and earth into his own to obtain abilities beyond the ordinary. The Purple Cloud's elemental chi refinement method is a technique for collecting the first morning glow purple chi between heaven and earth at the transition of day and night. If practiced deeply, it can turn the refined primordial elemental chi into a force filled with the power of purple clouds, effective in eliminating evil spirits and magic barriers. This volume of Purple Cloud's elemental chi refinement method not only contains techniques for cultivation but also plenty of knowledge about cultivation and small spells. Even though this information has passed for 10,000 years, it still holds significant value for Shen Yuan. After repeated studying, Shen Yuan began his cultivation of the Purple Cloud's elemental chi refinement method. Although it was already late at night and there was no chance to gather morning glow purple chi, it did not affect the operation of the refinement method. As his breathing gradually blended into the rhythm of the cloud mist breathing method and became longer and more extended, a large amount of spirit energy began to surge into the practice room. In this process, Purple Cloud's elemental chi refinement method, which Shen Yuan practiced, felt like an invisible hand continuously capturing the surrounding spirit energy and forcefully stuffing it into Shen Yuan's Danshan, allowing it to transform into essence element. Purple Cloud's elemental chi refinement method and cloud mist breathing method are both inherited techniques of the Falling Cloud sect, and they complement each other in functionality. The progress brought about by the first practice of refining elemental chi exceeded Shen Yuan's expectations. On Shen Yuan's right hand, the previously integrated Pot's Heaven Divine Capacity Seed, under the operation of the refining method, once again revealed the spirit treasure-like gourd imprint. The jade green gourd seemed to materialize, its mouth continuously capturing the external spirit energy. A large amount of spirit energy was swallowed into the Divine Capacity Seed, with a small part nourishing Shen Yuan's body through the seed. The meager spirit energy from the just-arrived spirit energy tidal surge could hardly satisfy the Divine Capacity Seed. The spiritual energy vortex around Shen Yuan began to visibly expand, quickly enveloping more than half of the old town. The dormant spirit energy in the old town was gradually stirred up and began to rush towards the courtyard where Shen Yuan was located. The jujube tree and the green vine in the courtyard, amidst the energy vortex, were absorbing a minor part of the spirit energy, even though most of it was consumed by Shen Yuan. The previously shedding jujube tree started sprouting new buds, and the verdant vine shed its old body and started growing anew, breathing new life into this ramshackle courtyard. Although most of the spirit energy was absorbed by the Divine Capacity Seed, the spirit energy nourishing Shen Yuan's body was the purest, not requiring any refining before blending into his essence element to strengthen himself. The essence element inside Shen Yuan began to rapidly expand at an unimaginable speed. Shen Yuan's elemental chi refining practice caused a stir in half the city, yet the old town did not react at all. The old town, being an abandoned industrial area, barely had people living there, mostly elderly people. Under these conditions, it's challenging for a natural cultivator to be born. People who have no cultivation practice could not perceive the changes in spirit energy, so barely anyone in the old town noticed. Despite the lack of human notice, it doesn't mean other life forms remained unaware. In the dark and secluded alleyway, a gigantic Maine Coon cat, almost half human height, swept by without making a sound, its large frame seemingly merged with the dark shadows. Behind it followed dozens of stray cats, their pairs of green eyes glittering in the night, carrying an eerie and horrifying atmosphere. However, The terrifying atmosphere reduced significantly if one noticed the half-human-sized Maine Coon's head. A tiny kitten was fearfully perched on the head of the Maine Coon, with its claws deeply dug into the Maine Coon's long hair for fear of being thrown to the ground. The Maine Coon covered its face with a paw, unable to hold back laughter upon seeing the tiny one's timid behavior. "Your Majesty, please maintain your posture." Upon hearing this, the kitten shakily stood upright, surveying the ordinary stray cats staring at it with a human-like embarrassment visible on its small face. "Shut up." With glove-like little paws batting the Maine Coon's head, a tender voice came from the kitten's throat. "How much longer till we reach?" The Maine Coon glanced at their surroundings, a hint of unease flickering in its deep vertical pupils. "We should be in the vicinity. But speaking of which, Your Majesty, are you sure the location identified by the box weapon is accurate?" Upon hearing this, the kitten arrogantly lifted its small head. "Humphrey. In order to get that jerk's information, I made a great effort to find his phone number, then located his parcel receiving location. His residence will definitely be near the parcel point. When the time comes, we just have to search house by house. We will certainly find it. Then, Your Majesty, do you know what that person looks like?" the Maine Coon asked appropriately. Upon hearing this, the smile on the kitten's face instantly froze. But I know his name is Shen Yuan," the kitten quickly responded. The Maine Coon sighed deeply after hearing that. "Your Majesty, you don't know the exact location, nor what the person looks like. How is knowing the name going to help? We can't possibly go from house to house asking for his name, can we?" Upon hearing this, the kitten deflated instantly, its ears drooping dejectedly on top of its head, looking gloomy. The dejected look of the kitten only brought relief to the Maine Coon. It was actually unwilling to go on this reckless adventure with the kitten, as the kitten was too small and had no self-protection ability. Any accident could lead to irreversible consequences. Yet, it could not disobey the king's command. Its best option was to make the kitten see reason and voluntarily give up. From the looks of it, it seemed to have achieved its goal. Just when the Maine Coon was about to speak again, the kitten, barely as large as a ball of yarn, sniffed lightly, its unusually colored eyes showing a look of excitement. The fluctuations of spirit energy are unusual, there's bound to be a good treasure there. As soon as the kitten spoke, the Maine Coon immediately sensed the chaotic spirit energy spreading around. A mass amount of spirit energy transformed into a huge vortex, gathering towards a small courtyard at the core of the area. Chapter 10, Void Refining True Monarch. One as a member of the awakened monster tribe with a bloodline inheritance, the Maine Coon knew very well that to stir such a wide range of spiritual energy vortex, it would have to be at least a true monarch or a demon lord from the refining spirit to return to void stage. At the time when the spirit energy tidal surge had just arrived, it was impossible for this remote place to give birth to such a strong being at this realm, so this spiritual energy vortex must have been caused by some kind of worldly treasure. With the reminder from the kitten, the Maine Coon immediately realized the potential opportunity within. Turning its head towards the dozens of stray cats behind it, the Maine Coon issued a low growl from its throat, and the stray cats scattered and fled as if they had received an order. Soon, the Maine Coon's massive body seemed to blend into the shadows, quickly rushing towards the center of the spiritual energy vortex. As the divine capacity seed absorbs spirit energy at a faster rate, many animals in the old district affected by the spirit energy tidal surge start together. Among them was a huge rat king, overweight and carried by a horde of rats, an eerie crow with various colored feathers and fire at its feet, and a gigantic roach that could fly and stood half a meter tall. These monsters gathered outside Shen Yuan's courtyard, looking greedily at the cultivation room inside. Having awoken their bloodline early in the onset of the spirit energy tidal surge, these monsters, each one a king within their own tribe, knew very well what such a wide-ranging spiritual energy vortex represented. Heavenly materials and earth treasures that could extend lifespan, natural spirit objects that could enhance cultivation, or even divine capacity seeds that nurtured divine arts. Regardless of which kind, they could provide an unimaginable advantage in the early return of the spirit energy tidal surge, allowing them to transcend the limitations of their tribe and become future demon kings. Thinking of this, the greed within these monsters began to swell rapidly. Compared to the indigenous beings of this place, the Maine Coon arrived a bit later. By the time it got to the courtyard, several monsters and a large number of rat hordes and crows had already surrounded the courtyard. The arrival of the Maine Coon immediately attracted the attention of the other monsters, and its robust body, as tall as half a human, made it seem like a fierce tiger. Consequently, the other monsters retreated somewhat upon first seeing the Maine Coon. A tiger demon transformation is known as Mountain Sovereign, qualified to become earth deities and mountain gods. They are great demons with innate divine powers. If there really was a mountain sovereign here, no monster would qualify to compete with it. However, after recognizing that the main coon's head did not have the royal character symbolizing a mountain sovereign, but just a palm-sized furball, the other monsters no longer had their initial trepidation. The main coon's enormous body did provide a certain advantage when facing other monsters, but this was not enough to get them to hand over the treasures willingly. Only the overweight Rat King instinctively quivered its body, hiding itself within the rat horde. The kitten on the main coon's head excitedly looked towards the center of the gathering spirit energy. But when it saw it was a human dwelling, its delight instantly turned into disappointment. It turns out it's someone else's possession. The kitten grumbled unhappily. The main coon cast a slow glance at the other hovering monsters, then stuck out its crimson tongue to lick its paw and nonchalantly said, "My lord, if you need it, I can snatch it for you." At these words, the kitten threw another punch at the main coon's head. "Didn't I tell you? If we want to develop in human society, we absolutely cannot do illegal things, especially stealing other people's stuff." The main coon, which had been domineering just a moment ago, immediately appeared wronged. But using a box to locate someone's offline address is also illegal. The kitten was immediately stunned, a look of embarrassment appearing on its face. It immediately started to explain, "It's all that jerk's fault. If he hadn't provoked me first and refused to apologize, would I have wanted to find him offline? And besides, I still haven't found him yet, so it definitely doesn't count as breaking the law." As the kitten countered, the rat demon could no longer contain itself and had its horde of rats charge towards the courtyard. The rats descended like an avalanche towards the wooden door, with the one showing signs of demonization gnawing rapidly at the rotting door. It was only a matter of time before the door would collapse. However, the commotion outside did not seem to attract the attention of anyone in the room. The rats continued to ram into the wooden door, which looked ready to fall apart at any moment. Seeing this, the kitten wore a conflicted expression and whispered to the main coon, "There are still humans inside the room. Those guys are definitely planning to kill the humans and then take the treasure. Should we stop them from killing?" This time, the kitten wasn't giving orders, but inquiring with a business-like tone. The main coon, having been abandoned by humans, had no good feelings for them and instinctively wanted to refuse. But when it saw the hopeful look in the kitten's eyes, its heart inexplicably softened. "According to your will." The kitten was carefully put aside, and the two stray cats behind him immediately came up to protect it. The main coon rushed into the rat swarm like a fierce tiger. The rats panicked and fled as they were trampled to death in panic. "Stop!" Roaring in the midst of the carnage, a surge of demon energy started to press against the besieged monsters in the courtyard. The display of such a mighty demonic power caused many monsters to furtively glance at each other. If this cat stepped further, it could have reached the chi transformation realm and become a real member of the monster tribe. The treasures in the courtyard are up for grabs, but no harm should come to the humans inside. The main coon's words fell and the monsters became immediately infuriated. "Who do you think you are? I knew that cats are just humans, lackeys. Did you, a rat, just try to insult a dog? You are protecting humans, you're a traitor to our race." The main coon ignored their scornful remarks. It lifted its paw and politely licked the remains from its fur, a look of complete disdain in its eyes. "I am just establishing the rules here. Anyone who does not follow them, dies." The main coon's firm stance caused the surrounding to fall silent for a while. The monster's eyes shone with caution. Their goal was the treasure within the courtyard, and the death of the people therein was of no significance to them. A clash with the main coon would be a losing affair. Exchanging glances and prepping to agree, they were suddenly interrupted by a violent disturbance within the courtyard. The ground collapsed and countless mice began rushing out of the hole. The Rat King, a noticeably plump rat, was in the center. The monsters were shocked. They assumed that the Rat King had hidden because it feared the natural predator, the cat demon, but it had ordered the rats to dig a tunnel and take the initiative instead. This ignited a state of frenzy amongst the monsters, discarding their calculated caution and rushing towards the courtyard, completely disregarding the main coon's stance. The main coon stood in front of the wooden door with a grimace. It had planned to rely on its own strength to deter other monsters, but the Rat King had changed the situation. Although it was powerful, it couldn't possibly face off with these monsters for the sake of one human. With that thought, it stepped aside. The swarm of mice rushing from the courtyard had already reached the door to the cultivation room, carrying the Rat King. The Rat King's tiny eyes were filled with excitement. It could see that the treasure was within reach. Just as the swarm of mice was about to touch the door, the massive spiritual energy vortex suddenly vanished, and the door was gently pushed open by a hand. A handsome young man wearing a white shirt stood there. He looked weak and ordinary, as if any transformed rat could easily bite through his throat. This ordinary young man threw something towards the swarm of mice. The Rat King took a closer look. It was a small brown matchbox, way too small to light a fire that could kill a rat. A desperate attempt in panic. The Rat King was immensely scornful. Before he could react, deep black cracks began to appear all over the small matchbox and a restless aura started spreading rapidly from it. Before he could respond, the black cracks had spread all around, enveloping the entire swarm of mice and even affecting the rushing monsters in the courtyard with the spread of massive space rifts. Neither the torn flesh nor the erupting demonic power could affect that shattered space, and the monsters cluelessly entered the ripped space one after another like lambs voluntarily entering the slaughterhouse. The shattered space rift acted like the mouth of an enormous and ruthless beast, swallowing all the demons up. In the swarm, the desperate cries pierced through the silent night sky. Shattering void, he is the void refining true monarch. Chapter 11, The King is missing one. Only a void refining true monarch possesses the power to shatter the void. This is a universally accepted understanding in the cultivation world. It's been 3,000 years since spirit energy depletion, and no void refining true monarch has appeared in the cultivation world during this extensive time period. These demons made their judgment based on the scant, unclear information within their inherited memories. In extreme panic and fear, everyone tends to believe the only person speaking out. It's the same for demons. Once such an initial impression is set, more information becomes gradually clearer in a demon's mind. Why did the old city district experience a spiritual energy vortex covering half of the city? Why did the vortex disappear instantly when this young man appeared? Why can he shatter the void by simply waving his hand? All these questions can be answered by ascribing the identity of void refining true monarch to the young man in front of them. The wide-ranging spiritual energy vortex wasn't a sign of treasure, but merely the result of this void refining true monarch's daily cultivation. When he ceased cultivating, the vortex quickly dissipated. The space rift that wiped out the horde of demons with a wave of the hand was merely a casual move of shattering the void by the true monarch. His aura of a common individual was because his cultivation realm had reached the level of pure simplicity. The first demon who shouted void refining true monarch was swiftly devoured by the spreading space rift, but its fearful words swayed all of the other demons' thoughts. It wasn't surprising that these demons were mistaken. The void refining true monarch was too distant for them, there was only vague information in their inherited memories. The unstoppable space rift and the sudden demise of dozens of demons had plunged them into terror. However, Shen Yuan did not give them any chances. He flicked his hand and threw another specially made space hand grenade toward the group of demons who hadn't managed to disperse in time. The internal space opened up by Put's heaven divine power clashed with the outside world, causing an explosion and the emergence of numerous space rifts. These were merely small demons at the essence refining stage, they had zero defense against the space rifts. Their flesh and blood was torn apart instantly, fur and blood splattering everywhere. Yet before their filthy blood could hit the ground, the shattered space swallowed everything, leaving no trace behind. Just 2 space grenades wiped out all the demons within the courtyard. What was left were some minor demons who hadn't initially made it into the courtyard and a few animals infected by demonic energy. Shen Yuan's indifferent gaze swept over the remaining minor demons outside the yard. Fear spread rapidly, and a myriad of infected animals scattered in all directions. Across the gloomy skies, alongside the roads, inside the dark sewers, the remaining demons regretted not having more legs to run with. The main coon waiting at the gate, too, joined the fleeing army. As a cat demon only a step away from reaching the chi transformation stage, the main coon was fully aware that the young man in the courtyard was far more terrifying than he had imagined. Because in the process of eliminating those demons, he didn't use any mana at all. He nonchalantly released a regular item, triggering massive space rifts that swallowed all the demons. Such power was far beyond its comprehension. In its frantic escape, the main coon didn't dare glance back. It used its innate talent to creep through the shadows, and while the night was its best cover, it still felt no sense of security. If the young man in the courtyard wished to strike, even if it managed to escape from Wen City, it would die without a doubt. But the instinct to survive was propelling it, making it lose its sanity and run wildly. After an unknown amount of time, when the scenery before it became a desolate wilderness, the main coon could no longer maintain its stealthy state. It emerged from the shadows of the shrubs, collapsed in the grass, panting heavily. Looking back in the direction he came from, he could no longer see any trace of human activity. Even the main coon could not fathom the lengthy distance they had traveled this time. However, thankfully, the terrifying threat had finally completely dissipated after having moved away from the old city district. It should be over, right? Relaxing slightly, the main coon skillfully reached for the top of its head to comfort a certain expectedly shivering little ball of fur. Your Majesty, rest assured, I will definitely protect. The main coon's actions came to a sudden halt. The king is gone. I was just practicing my cultivation, how did it attract so many little demons? Shen Yuan watched as the demon-infected animals and a few stray demons fled, making no move to stop them. Besides the space hand grenade, he had no other spells at his disposal and could not necessarily stop all the demons. Instead of stubbornly trying to wipe out those who may escape, it would be better to let these small demons go. After all, judging by the situation, the small demons will certainly not dare to intrude this area for a short time. Surveying the courtyard, all Shen Yuan saw was carnage. The space rift had devoured all the demons' flesh, but the destruction caused by the demons infiltrating the yard was irreparable. Several pillars of the wooden corridor had collapsed, a large hole had been dug in the center of the ground by the infected rat swarm, and only a few shabby wooden boards remained to the door. The whole yard looked dilapidated. Having walked out of the cultivation room door, Shen Yuan assessed the losses in the courtyard with a frown, especially repairing the large hole in the center of the yard would certainly be expensive. Thinking about this, Shen Yuan felt a twinge of pain. What a pity. The space rift brought by the pot's heaven divine skill was too domineering, devouring all those little demons without leaving a trace. If we could have left behind a few demon corpses, it would have been possible to compensate for the loss. As he thought this, Shen Yuan crossed the tattered door frame, which only had a few wooden boards left, considering whether to have a sturdier door next time. But after his gaze swept over the equally badly damaged surrounding wall, he suddenly felt it might be more cost-effective to move. Just then, the corner of Shen Yuan's eye caught a flash of white. Following the direction, Shen Yuan saw a black and white furball shaking in the corner of the street. When he got closer to the street, he saw that the black and white furball was a small kitten, no bigger than a palm. The pure black fur covered the entire body, with its limbs being the perfect white, like a pair of white gloves. What a splendid black cloud stepping on white snow. Shen Yuan's eyes lit up, skillfully reaching out to grab the little kitten. Caught by the scruff of its neck in an embarrassing pose by Shen Yuan's giant hand, the fate of the hitherto trembling kitten was stiff. There were thousands of words it wanted to utter, yet in front of the seemingly harmless handsome young man, all it could manage was a soft meow. Mew. Chapter 12, The Big Devil One. The little kitten was in distress. Originally, he brought the Maine Coon here to find the guy on the internet who disregarded cats' rights, wanting him to apologize and make amends. However, they got caught up in a treasure hunt midway. The kitten, having had a moment of compassion, allowed the Maine Coon to save the humans who might have been killed. He couldn't have possibly imagined that the humans would exhibit absolute strength and kill all the demons. At the cries of the dying demons, all the creatures outside the courtyard collapsed, beginning to flee the area indiscriminately. This, of course, included the Maine Coon and the stray cats that it had arranged to guard. But how could the stray cats that had been tainted with a trace of demonic energy have ever witnessed such a scene? They abandoned the kitten at the first opportunity and chose to save their own lives. The little kitten also wanted to escape, but alas, he was smaller than those demon-transformed rats. If he wasn't careful, he might get trampled by the panicked demon-transformed animals. Left with no choice, the kitten could only hide in a corner, shivering in fear, hoping the Maine Coon would realize he's missing and come to rescue him. Yet, to his dismay, the thing he least wanted to occur happened. He got caught by the owner of the courtyard. And even worse, the owner held him by the scruff of his neck in a blatant violation of cat's rights. The kitten wanted to fight back, but all his anger could only transform into a pleasing meow when faced with the person who seemed to be the void-refining true monarch. Hearing the kitten's cute, obedient meow, a warm smile appeared on Shen Yuan's face. This palm-sized kitten, not even a month old, was probably brought here during the chaos caused by the outbreak of demon-transformed animals. Abandoning such a small kitten here might even lead to it being carried off by a big rat. With this thought in mind, Shen Yuan gently touched the kitten's soft nose and asked casually, "Little guy, how about you stick with me from now on?" The kitten was immediately struck dumbfounded. This guy must have learned of my identity and deliberately asked this question to coerce me into becoming his spirit beast. Damn, in this modern society, why are there still such conservative people who disregard cats' rights and want to turn others into spirit beasts? The kitten was furious. Even though Shen Yuan held his life by the scruff of his neck, he still wanted to resist. But the next moment, Shen Yuan cradled the kitten in his arms and skillfully scratched the kitten's chin with his right hand. The sensation of comfort spread from his tailbone to his crown, instantly disrupting the kitten's resistance thought process. Even if he consciously struggled, that comfortable feeling still made him subconsciously immerse in it. Mew. Good, I will take that as a yes. Shen Yuan, holding the kitten, squinted his eyes and laughed softly. Shen Yuan's words were originally just a playful monologue, not expecting this little kitten in front of him could understand. Anyway, this pretty young cat didn't have any identification tags on his body, so Shen Yuan planned to take him home and adopt him from the start. But in the ears of the kitten, Shen Yuan's monologue became an entirely different concept. Damn humans, they use such methods to confuse me, relax my vigilance, and make me agree to an unequal contract. Unforgivable, unforgivable. The kitten was extremely furious. But when Shen Yuan returned to the courtyard holding the kitten who had intended to resist, instantly backtracked. In the eyes of others, there was no impact on the courtyard except for being slightly messy. But in the kitten's view, this courtyard was full of the despairing wails of the dying demons and the yin spirits left behind after being torn by the space. At the time when the spirit energy tidal surge just returned, there was not enough spiritual energy between heaven and earth to support the birth of ghosts. These yin spirits would dissipate when the sun comes up. But in the eyes of the kitten now, the wailing of the desperate demon yin spirits was nothing short of horrifying. In the entire courtyard, only Shen Yuan's surroundings maintained a zone of purity, where the incomplete yin spirits and the despairing wails would disappear immediately wherever Shen Yuan went. That was the fear left by the demons when they were alive, a dread that pierced into the depths of their souls so profound that they dared not offend Shen Yuan, even after death. The kitten shivered in fear, watching everything unfold before its eyes. As long as a cultivator's strength reaches the chi transformation realm and masters basic spells such as spirit communicating art and yin-yang-ai, they can see the yin spirits that ordinary people cannot see. With Shen Yuan's strength, he could inherently see these yin spirits, and dispelling them would be a matter of mere thought. However, Shen Yuan did nothing of the sort. He let the spirits roam around this courtyard, as though indulging in some perverse pleasure. Demon. Definitely a great demon. The kitten was terrified. Sticking its butt out with its head buried deep in Shen Yuan's embrace, the kitten didn't even dare to look directly at the handsome young man before it. In the kitten's eyes, anyone with such a perverse taste could only be a notorious great demon in the demon path during the last spirit energy tidal surge era. For such figures, death was only the beginning. They ignite the soul lamp with a soul, wailing for 100 years as the soul dissolves. They seal the soul in the flesh, allowing the soul's will to witness the simultaneous decay of its own body and soul. They create blood zombies holding cognizance to kill their loved ones, morphing into ruthless killing machines amidst endless breakdowns. And these were just the most basic methods in the demon path. A true high-ranking demon was far more cruel and ruthless than it could imagine. As long as there are green mountains, there will always be wood to burn. As long as I am alive, I will be able to escape from the palm of this great demon sooner or later. The fear in its heart caused the kitten to abandon the idea of resistance entirely. At least on the surface, the kitten tried to pacify the great demon, in order to avoid being used to ignite the sky lantern. Shen Yuan, who had no idea about the kitten's thoughts at all, glanced at the little fur ball burying its butt deep in his arms, assuming that the kitten felt stressed due to the new environment. He did not take it to heart. Surveying the dilapidated courtyard, Shen Yuan felt that the air was somehow colder than usual, with no other abnormalities. Carrying the kitten back to his room, Shen Yuan had no desire to continue his cultivation after what had happened tonight. Although he was not sure about the exact reason for the gathering of the demons, Shen Yuan guessed that it might be related to the pot's heaven divine power seed's cyclic spirit energy intake output. The part of essence element which was fed back by the divine power seed alone had led to a surge in the essence element within Shen Yuan's body. If he digested it with his heart, his strength was bound to advance further. Before he could refine the essence element over the next few days, Shen Yuan didn't need to cause any additional commotion. Placing the kitten on the table, Shen Yuan looked at it and suddenly proposed, "Since you are now my cat, you should have a name that belongs to you. Since you're so black, how about Little Black?" Even if the kitten had prepared itself to appease the demon in front of it, it couldn't help but roll its beautiful heterochromatic eyes at this name. "You don't like it? I think this name is pretty good." Shen Yuan was somewhat stumped. After pondering for a while, Shen Yuan's eyes brightened. "That's right, your fur color is dark clouds treading on white snow. If you're male, I will call you Dark Cloud, if female, White Snow. What do you think of this name?" Before the kitten could respond, Shen Yuan again picked it up by the scruff of its neck to check the kitten's private parts to determine its gender. The stunned kitten didn't even have time to react until Shen Yuan put it down and announced the name White Snow, only then it let out a wail of distress, as if waking up from a nightmare. Meow. Chapter 13, Clever Beizhu. When with the first ray of morning sunlight falling into the cultivation room, Shen Yuan, who had been waiting for some time, started to rotate the purple cloud's elemental chi refinement method to capture the morning glow purple chi within the sunlight. The morning glow purple chi is born between heaven and earth, and is the most basic chi of heaven and earth, but even so, without special refining methods, even if one knows about the presence of morning glow purple chi, one still cannot catch it. An intangible medium separates a strand of shimmering purple chi, which slowly merges into his body as Shen Yuan rotates his cultivation method. The essence element sedimentation inside Shen Yuan integrates with this morning glow purple chi, taking on a bit of regal demeanor. And, outside the courtyard, Beizhu, who was lying on the stone table, was staring blankly towards the direction of the cultivation room. Her heterochromatic pupils had lost their usual sparkle. In her mind, she was still replaying the scene from last night. I've been violated. I've been violated. With insomnia all night, Beizu's face was full of sorrow. Her palm-sized, small body was slightly trembling, as if she had borne a great deal of injustice. For a kitten who had made a pledge to maintain cat rights and improve the status of the cat tribe, Shen Yuan's seemingly casual actions were nothing short of the greatest insult to herself. If it wasn't for the clear understanding that her combat ability was basically on par with that of a large rat, Beizu would have picked a fight with Shen Yuan long ago. As time passed, the morning sun gradually rose, spreading sunlight generously across the land. Meanwhile, in Shen Yuan's courtyard, the yin spirits that had lingered all night began to let out mournful wails. Their spirit bodies' strength was simply insufficient to support them to transform into ghost cultivators, allowing the yin spirits to melt like snow under the sun. They dared not hastily rush into Shen Yuan's house to avoid the sun. It was ingrained in their consciousness that stepping there was far more terrifying than death. They wouldn't dare overstep, even at the risk of their spirit soul dispersing. Broken yin spirits scattered and fled within the courtyard. Their pain and complete loss of rationality drove them to start killing each other. Their already deficient spirit bodies continued to shatter in the intense battles. Their cries, deeply linked to their souls, appeared even more bizarre. In Beizu's eyes, such a sight was so cruel and terrifying. Yet for Shen Yuan, who was inside the cultivation room, it seemed that he had already become accustomed to it. Those mournful cries of the spirits did not draw even an ounce of his interest. When the last wisp of yin spirits dispersed under the jujube tree, the courtyard was filled with a large amount of residual power from the departed yin spirits. The jujube tree and the green vine instinctively shook their leaves in celebration, and began to greedily absorb this unclaimed soul power. For plants that have not yet developed spiritual wisdom and merely possess the instinct to absorb and expel spirit energy through years of cultivation under Shen Yuan, this rich soul power would become a crucial factor for the birth of their spiritual wisdom. Beizu turned her gaze aside, choosing not to compete with the two plants for the remnants of these yin spirits. Instead, she looked towards the gate that opened just tens of meters away. Compared to these yin spirit powers, Beizu yearned more for the world outside the gate. She could clearly hear passers-by's footsteps on the outside road, the occasional roaring engine of the guide, and see birds freely flying in the sky. It seemed that all she needed to do was to take a step, and she could easily walk out of this confined space that had entrapped her. However, the clever Beizu already saw through everything. Beizu's attractive eyes turned towards the cultivation room. A trace of disdain appeared on her face. The big demon hasn't even signed a spirit beast pact. He obviously wants to test me with this method. As soon as I choose to run, he will surely catch me and then legitimately torture me. The cultivators of the spirit beast mountain lineage in my inheritance memories used this routine to torment spirit beasts, then subjugated them completely, from their physical bodies to their spirit souls. I remember seeing similar skills in human videos. It's called .cpu? Pua. Beizu expressed some confusion about the unfamiliar glyphs, but she had already seen through Shen Yuan's small actions. So, she quietly lay on a stone table. Half an hour later, the door of the cultivation room gradually opened, and a satisfied Shen Yuan emerged. For his first time refining morning glow purple chi, Shen Yuan was quite pleased. When the strand of morning glow purple chi seeped into his essence element, he distinctly felt a slow metamorphosis occurring in the properties of his essence element. There wasn't much prominent change at the essence refining stage. However, once one steps into the chi transformation stage, mastery over mana is gained, and this morning glow purple chi integrated with one's essence element would cause a metamorphosis in the properties of mana, which greatly exceeded those of ordinary cultivators. The purple cloud's elemental chi refinement method had a great advantage, especially in the cultivation of spirit soul techniques and the eliminate evil spells. This precisely is the extraordinary nature of the mystic arts from an ancient and hidden immortal sect like the Falling Cloud sect. Thinking about this, Shen Yuan wore a smile and fondly stroked Beizu's little head. Beizu, you're so obedient, not running around while I was cultivating. Beizu silently rolled her eyes. She didn't believe a word Shen Yuan said. Shen Yuan's cultivation this time only involved refining some morning glow purple chi. Although this chi of heaven and earth had some special properties, it was trivial to high-ranked cultivators such as the void refining true monarch. Shen Yuan's words reassured Beizu even more that he was pretending to cultivate just to keep an eye on whether she was trying to escape. The mastermind is sure cunning. But how could someone as clever as me be deceived by these petty tricks? Beizu was exceedingly proud of herself. In a good mood, Shen Yuan drew back his hand, letting Beizu play on a stone table while he went to the kitchen to prepare breakfast. The conflict with the demon last night had ended, but it still brought some trouble. Destructions like the collapsed wooden walkway, the entrance door and a huge hole dug at the center of the yard needed to be attended to. Additionally, since he had taken in Beizu, Shen Yuan had to get her some daily necessities like a kitty litter box and cat food. If only cats could use flush toilets, lamented Shen Yuan. Shen Yuan's breakfast wasn't anything fancy, just a bowl of ordinary egg noodles. In the older parts of the city near the countryside, elderly villagers would often sell eggs from their free-range chickens. Fried golden brown country eggs coupled with a simple bowl of clear water noodles still managed to awaken one's appetite. Shen Yuan sat at the stone table enjoying his delicious breakfast, while Beizu lay on the table, staring greedily at his plate of noodles. Feeling a little embarrassed under Beizu's intense gaze, Shen Yuan could only placate, "Little kitty, you can't eat this stuff. Later, I will get you some cat food." Upon hearing this, Beizu gave Shen Yuan an expression of disdain, silently complaining in her heart, "Who wants your cat food? I want to eat human food." In Beizu's opinion, cat food was nothing more than a cheap trick humans pulled on cats. Only by eating human food could she be on an equal footing with humans. But she didn't dare voice these thoughts in front of the demon Shen Yuan. She could only mumble in her heart. In the untidy yard in the early morning, a young man sat under a tree eating his breakfast, while a black and white kitten on the table quietly watched him. The scene was filled with peace and harmony. However, this serene scene was quickly shattered. A figure intruded into the open yard of Shen Yuan's residence. The intruder was a middle-aged man, who looked around 40. Dressed in a suit and leather shoes, he exuded a commanding aura. Among his entourage was a young man carrying a briefcase. Entering the courtyard and seeing the mess, the middle-aged man subconsciously furrowed his brows. He then looked at Shen Yuan who was sitting beneath the jujube tree and asked, "Excuse me, is Mr. Shen Yuan here?" Chapter 14, Fu Family 1 I am Shen Yuan. Shen Yuan was carefully observing the middle-aged man who had barged into the courtyard, confirming that he did not know the man. The middle-aged man nodded slightly and said, "I am Fu Hua. The gentleman, old Master Fu, who rented this small courtyard to you, is my father. I came here today to discuss something with you." In Shen Yuan's mind, an image of an elderly master, dressed in a traditional Chinese suit, looking aged but still spirited, flashed instantly. Old Master Fu had first met Shen Yuan in a park when he was cultivating the breathing method. During the early stages of its practice, there were some corresponding martial arts poses that aided the transition into the state of the breathing method, and it was during this martial arts practice that Shen Yuan had met old Master Fu. It seemed that the Fu family was already somewhat versed in cultivation, but the spirit energy depletion that had continued for 3,000 years had rendered most ordinary cultivation methods useless, and the preserved forms of these methods had not been passed down well. By the time the spirit energy tidal surge returned, the Fu family had only retained a few fist forms and some thoughts on cultivation. Thanks to these remnants, old Master Fu, despite being nearly 70 years old, still enjoyed good health. Old Master Fu had great interest in these practices, and after seeing Shen Yuan's practiced martial arts moves, he befriended him. Before long, they became good friends, often exchanging thoughts on cultivation. Shen Yuan, in this process, had taught old Master Fu some tricks to the breathing method. However, given the maxim to not pass along secrets lightly, Shen Yuan did not teach the complete cloud mist breathing method to him. Despite this, old Master Fu treated the teachings as a precious gift and many times offered to repay Shen Yuan, but Shen Yuan declined each time. Several months ago, when Shen Yuan moved out of his family home, old Master Fu rented this courtyard to him at a friend price. It was a favor packaged in part sale, part gift. Without old Master Fu's help, the few hundred yuan that Shen Yuan had for rent would have only been able to afford him a very run-down, independent courtyard in an old district, and certainly not such a good environment. Of course, this was not a purely one-sided favor. Technically speaking, the tips Shen Yuan taught about the breathing method were invaluable in this era of returning spirit energy tidal surge, and the minor rent was nothing in comparison. Their exchanges, thus, were not purely grounded in monetary values, resembling instead a dignified, gentlemanly friendship. From this, Shen Yuan now understood why Fu Hua had earlier furrowed his brows. Due to his cultivation last night, a group of lesser demons had been drawn to the courtyard, and while Shen Yuan had used his divine skills to eliminate them, the courtyard had been significantly damaged. In Fu Hua's eyes, Shen Yuan was still an ordinary tenant. Seeing the state in which Shen Yuan had left the courtyard, anyone would be upset. That Fu Hua had not directly voiced out his displeasure already showed considerable manners. Seeing no point in trying to explain the mess in the courtyard, Shen Yuan said straightforwardly, "Whatever matter Mr. Fu Hua has in mind, please feel free to say." Fu Hua nodded towards the young assistant behind him, who immediately pulled out a document from his briefcase and handed it to Shen Yuan. "I came here to talk about taking back the rental property that we rented to Mr. Shen." The agreement on the house rental between Mr. Shen and my father was a gentleman's agreement, and we did not sign a rental contract. It was verbally agreed that the house would be rented. But I feel taking it back earlier would break our agreement with Mr. Shen. We have this contract here. If Mr. Shen could sign it, we could offer compensation equivalent to double the rent that Mr. Shen has paid. If Mr. Shen still wishes to rent in the vicinity, I can arrange another residence. What do you think, Mr. Shen? Shen Yuan did not take the contract. Instead, he asked Fu Hua, "Did old Master Fu instruct this?" Fu Hua frowned slightly. "It was my own idea. It has nothing to do with my father." In Fu Hua's opinion, he had left his work to come attend to Shen Yuan, and even prepared a compensation contract beforehand. He deemed it as extending maximum courtesy to Shen Yuan. Looking at Shen Yuan's demeanor, it seemed to Fu Hua that Shen Yuan was far from impressed. This greatly agitated him. Shen Yuan didn't care for Fu Hua's demeanor. He remained calm and said, "The master of this house is old Master Fu, and the agreement to rent this home was made between me and old Master Fu. Furthermore, it was more than a simple monetary transaction. If old Master Fu required it, I would move out immediately without any question." "Mr. Fu Hua, with your father yet to express his intent, aren't you worried your intrusiveness might upset old Master Fu?" A hint of anger finally appeared on Fu Hua's face. "This courtyard belongs to the Fu family. It's only right for me to take it back. You don't have to use my father to pressure me. You have to understand, there's no signed contract between you and my father. Even if I forcibly take back the house and pay you no compensation, it is completely within the bounds of the law." After a slight pause, Fu Hua swept his gaze over the severely damaged courtyard and the big hole in the middle of the yard, and continued in a cold voice, "You have been damaging the house during your stay. I have been very magnanimous in that I did not hold you responsible. If you're wise, sign the contract, take the compensation money and leave. Otherwise, prepare yourself for a court summons." Fu Hua's threat finally made Shen Yuan's eyes flicker, and it seemed as if the temperature of the air dropped a few degrees. Over by the stone table, Beizhu, who was taking advantage of the conversation to sneakily taste a noodle, instantly pulled back. She shrank into a ball and hid in the corner of the stone table, shivering. She could feel the displeasure in Shen Yuan's heart. Just last night, Shen Yuan had casually killed so many demons with no sign of any emotional fluctuation. Now, this ordinary person had poured oil on smoldering embers, as they say. Will the demon overlord turn this man into a soul and light the sky lantern? Or slaughter everyone around? Beizhu's mind was buzzing with thoughts. But just then, a chilling gust raced through Fu Hua, who was facing Shen Yuan directly. For a second, he seemed to have seen the horrifying spectacle of a legion of disconsolate souls wailing mournfully in the courtyard. It was as if he was looking at the righteous ghosts of the underworld. In an instant, Fu Hua felt his back soaked in a cold sweat. Just at that moment, hurried footsteps were heard from outside the door, followed by two more figures entering the courtyard. One of them was a beautiful young woman in her 20s who, upon seeing the dumbstruck figure of Fu Hua, couldn't help but exclaim in surprise, "Big brother, what are you doing here?" It was only then that Fu Hua recovered from the spectral illusion as if waking from a dream. Upon seeing that there were more guests from the Fu family, Shen Yuan, without any further ado, picked up a trembling snowy ball from the table and walked towards the front door. Fu Yu looked confusedly at Shen Yuan departing the courtyard, then turned to Fu Hua and asked, "Brother, did father give you the task of finding teacher Shen as well?" There was a slight look of panic in Fu Hua's eyes. "Task? What task?" Fu Yu looked confused. "Father especially told me yesterday to come here early in the morning to hand over the deed of this old house to teacher Shen, and from here onward this old house will belong to teacher Shen. If it is not for this, what are you doing here in the old house?" The color drained from Fu Hua's face as he quickly called out to Shen Yuan, who had just walked out, "Sir, please wait." Chapter 15, Critically Ill. Fu Hua was completely flustered at this point. He hadn't expected old Master Fu to show such regard for the seemingly unremarkable young man, Shen Yuan, to the extent that he was willing to bequeath the ancestral home to him. This ancestral house, located in the old city, was not of great value in itself. But to the Fu family, it was where old Master Fu had lived since he was a child, and where he started his journey to establish the influential Fu family. Thus, this house held a significant meaning for old Master Fu. The fact that old Master Fu wished to gift the ancestral home to Shen Yuan showed the level of importance he attached to Shen Yuan, a consideration that may be no less than that afforded to his eldest son, Fu Hua. Though Fu Hua was the eldest son of the Fu family, old Master Fu had more than one son. The brothers had been covertly fighting for succession rights for a long time, even causing signs of division within the Fu family. Unwilling to see his children and grandchildren in conflict, old Master Fu returned to his old home and retreated from worldly affairs. Yet, the true control of inheritance would still depend on old Master Fu's will. A few days ago, the usually robust old Master Fu suddenly fell chronically ill, causing great distress to the entire Fu family. Despite seeking medical help everywhere, the nature of old Master Fu's illness remained undiscovered. The brothers instinctively knew that old Master Fu must be nearing his end and that the successor of the Fu family would be decided within the next few days. Hence, during these days, Fu Hua and his brothers did everything they could to please old Master Fu, hoping to win the inheritance rights. Being the eldest son of old Master Fu, Fu Hua was well aware that a dying man would be nostalgic. Thus, he secretly initiated the search for Shen Yuan to retrieve the ancestral house. After driving Shen Yuan away, he could easily bring old Master Fu back to the ancestral home, talk about the old times, and touch upon emotional ties. As long as he pleased old Master Fu, and being the eldest son, his claim to the inheritance would be as steady as Mount Tai. But he never expected to fall aggravatingly short in his attempts to suck up to Shen Yuan. Old Master Fu, who was willing to give the ancestral house to Shen Yuan, would undoubtedly rage at Fu Hua's unauthorized action to drive away Shen Yuan. Without a doubt, this would influence his rights to succession. At this moment, Fu Hua finally understood why Shen Yuan had asked him whether it was old Master Fu's decision to have him move out or it was his premature decision. It turned out that Shen Yuan had long seen through the workings of the Fu family and chose to hold his peace out of respect for old Master Fu. But Fu Hua had simply dismissed Shen Yuan back then, assuming that Shen Yuan was threatening him using old Master Fu's power. Having realized this, Fu Hua regretted not giving himself a good slap on the face. "Mr. Shen, please wait." Fu Hua quickly followed Shen Yuan, who had just walked out of the gate, his usual arrogance completely dispelled, his face showing a humble smile instead. "I have offended you, Mr. Shen, out of ignorance. I beg for your forgiveness this time." Shen Yuan glanced indifferently at Fu Hua, who was following closely, without any intention of stopping. Such arrogance before and humility now, it's laughable when you think about it. Fu Hua's expression froze for a moment, but he quickly adjusted his mood and continued to smile. "You are right, Mr. Shen." Fu Hua, having mingled in the business world for many years, paid little heed to his dignity. Verbal sarcasm was irrelevant. As long as he could inherit the Fu family, what did it matter if he was humiliated by Shen Yuan? Fu Yu stood at the entrance of the courtyard, looking on with astonishment at the scene before her. Through Fu Hua's words, Fu Yu also realized that the young man holding a kitten was Mr. Shen, the one to whom old Master Fu had bestowed the ancestral house. If old Master Fu had taken a liking to him, Shen Yuan must certainly have remarkable qualities, which did not surprise Fu Yu. But what she didn't expect was that her eldest brother, who was a big shot in the business world, would be so obsequious to this young man, to the point of being humble. Could this Mr. Shen truly be an eminent figure living in seclusion? Fu Yu tried hard to figure it out but couldn't correlate the handsome young man holding the kitten with the eminence of a great man. This display from Fu Hua left Shen Yuan somewhat astonished at his thick-skinned nature, but Shen Yuan no longer had the energy to get involved in Fu family's affairs. His only acquaintance was old Master Fu, he didn't want to deal with anyone else. Without responding, Shen Yuan continued to hold Beizu and walk away, which made Fu Hua extremely anxious. If this news reached old Master Fu's ears, his succession rights would be utterly ruined. At this point, Fu Hua couldn't afford to keep anything concealed. He hurriedly signaled Fu Yu at the gate and continued to speak. "Mr. Shen, my father has decided to bestow this courtyard upon you. This is my father's heartfelt kindness, please accept it." Having caught on, Fu Yu readily echoed, although she didn't understand why Shen Yuan was angry. "You must be Mr. Shen, right? My father specifically instructed me to transfer this courtyard to you, insisting that you must accept it." Shen Yuan waved his hand dismissively. "It's not right to accept a reward without having done the deed. Don't bring this matter up again." Fu Yu was momentarily taken aback before saying hastily, "This is my father's dying wish. Please do accept, Mr. Shen." Hearing these words, Shen Yuan's steps paused as he turned to Fu Yu. "Dying wish?" Fu Yu's fair face revealed a sad expression. "Our father has been bedridden with a severe illness for a week, and his condition has been deteriorating despite numerous treatment attempts. Several renowned doctors have already issued critical condition notices. Handing over the ancestral house to you was his last dying wish. He hopes you will accept his kindness." Stunned by this, Shen Yuan barely kept his composure, for he had not expected old Master Fu, who was in good health just a few months ago, to be critically ill now. He quickly glanced at the somewhat guilty Fu Hua, and immediately understood why Fu Hua attempted to reclaim the ancestral house behind old Master Fu's back. However, at this point, he had no time to bother about these trivial issues, and simply asked Fu Yu directly, "Where is your father now?" Being a longtime friend and the first person on his path of cultivation he could call a comrade, Shen Yuan felt an obligation, both emotionally and rationally, to visit him. Moreover, Shen Yuan was intrigued with what could have possibly happened that caused a man halfway into the threshold of cultivation to fall critically ill within a few days. Fu Yu hesitated, unsure if she should disclose the information to Shen Yuan. However, Fu Hua, who stood beside her, had no such constraint. Seeing signs of Shen Yuan's change of heart, he knew he wouldn't be able to hold on to his position as the heir if he rejected again. Our father is indisposed and has been residing at home. If you wish to see him, Mr. Shen, I can take you to him right now. As he said this, Fu Hua promptly opened the door to the black luxury sedan parked by the road, and invited Shen Yuan to enter the car with a respectful look. Without any hesitation, Shen Yuan got into the back seat. Fu Hua also wanted to sit next to Shen Yuan, but thinking about Shen Yuan's dislike for him, he gestured for the beautiful Fu Yu to sit in the back, and he took it upon himself to drive the car. The car slowly drove in the direction away from the old city. Chapter 16, Bronze Ancient Sword 1. The black luxury car raced through the old city district, vibrantly transforming the surrounding streetscape as if gradually transitioning from the 80s and 90s to the new century. One skyscraper after another rose from the ground, with the environs and the passerby presenting a stark contrast to the old city district. In the car, Beizu emerged from Shen Yuan's arms, curiously gazing at the scenery outside the window. Despite having a profound understanding of human-made cars, this was her first time in one on the move, which made her extraordinarily curious about these man-made modes of transportation. The cute kitten completely drew Fu Yu's attention. Even when Fu Hua in the front seat tried a few times to prompt a conversation between her and Shen Yuan using an eye signal, she tacitly ignored him. Driving the car, Fu Hua gritted his teeth in frustration at her lack of response. He tried many times to initiate some conversation, but Shen Yuan paid him no mind. Leaning back in his seat, Shen Yuan half closed his eyes to refine the essence elements accumulated from absorbing a large amount of spirit energy yesterday. His cultivation realm was slowly advancing towards the late stage of essence refining. Half an hour later, the car entered a district filled with villas. The security guard on duty at the front gate was about to step forward for a check. However, he was startled when he caught a glimpse of Fu Hua driving the car. The residents of this villa district were overwhelmingly wealthy and influential. Yet, among them were prominent figures who outshined the rest. Without a doubt, Fu Hua, the current president of the Danzō group, was such a high-profile figure. Just the sight of Fu Hua behind the wheel made the security guard even more curious about the identity of the passengers in the back seat. As he opened the barrier, the guard sneakily glanced at the back seat, only to find a surprisingly young man who seemed to be in his early 20s. Before he could think more about it, the car had sped away into the distance. The car eventually slowly stopped in front of a villa. Fu Hua got out and eagerly opened the car door for Shen Yuan. Shen Yuan carrying Beizu got out of the car, his gaze immediately locked on to the villa in front of him. It wasn't the luxury of the villa that attracted Shen Yuan. Instead, it was the villa's discord with its surroundings that caught Shen Yuan's eye. Under the clear daylight, the entire villa exuded an unexplainable feeling of gloom. The sunshine falling on it seemed diminished somewhat. The originally warm and genial sunshine now presented a sense of cold, bleak desolation on the ground. To put a person who is halfway into the cultivation realm on his deathbed in just a few days, it can't just be any illness. Such heavy in energy, is it really due to ghosts? A look of doubt appeared in Shen Yuan's eyes. However, Shen Yuan failed to notice, when Beizu in his arms saw the heavily in energy permeated villa in front of her eyes. A hint of ecstatic emotion flashed across her heterochromatic iris. Seeing Shen Yuan hesitating in his spot, Fu Hua quickly extended his hand and guided him. "Teacher Shen, this way, please." Shen Yuan recollected his thoughts, stepped forward, and entered the villa with Beizu in his arms. As soon as he stepped into the villa, the chilling yin cold chi that seemed to blot out the sunlight swiftly rushed towards Shen Yuan. Shen Yuan, calm and composed, operated the refining elemental chi law, and his body instantly transformed into a furnace with the essence elements in it turning into the firewood. The furnace fiercely burned, and in an instant, the boiling blood erupted, and the rolling heat wave completely banished the yin cold chi within a few meters of his radius. Walking in front, Fu Hua and Fu Yu only felt a surge of heat that expelled the hidden coldness in their bodies, leaving them with an indescribable sense of comfort as if they were bathed in a hot spring. Immediately startled, Fu Hua turned around to look behind him. In his vision, Shen Yuan seemed to have transformed into a walking furnace, his aura so overwhelming that he did not dare to look straight. At that moment, Fu Hua immediately recalled the time he threatened Shen Yuan, the ghastly sight he saw at that instant. This is no coincidence. Teacher Shen really is a master. Fu Hua was absolutely flabbergasted. The changes brought about by the spirit energy tidal surge resulted in worldwide public opinion. As a well-known wealthy businessman throughout Yun Province, Fu Hua knew some related news in advance. After his father, Old Master Fu, fell seriously ill and the best doctors couldn't diagnose him. He had considered seeking some wise men for help. However, all the temples and pavilions in the prominent mountains and rivers had closed months ago. The remaining tourist attractions are all man-made, and visiting them brought no encounters with any wise men. Helpless, Fu Hua had to give up the idea of seeking help from these wise men. What he never expected was that his father's old friend happened to be the wise man he sought, which made Fu Hua both excited and regretful. If his demeanor had been more respectful at the time, if he hadn't offended Shen Yuan and instead invited Shen Yuan to his home, the position of inheritor would certainly have been his. Regrettably, because of a momentary lapse, he missed this opportunity. Ignoring Fu Hua's thoughts, Shen Yuan strode into the villa. At this moment, quite a few people were gathered within the villa, most of them dressed in luxurious clothing, looking very impressive. As soon as Shen Yuan arrived, someone rose to question him. "Who are you? Why have you intruded into our Fu families?" Before these words had finished, Fu Hua, who was following closely behind Shen Yuan, reprimanded firmly, "Little brother, this is Teacher Shen, watch your manners." The man Fu Hua referred to as little brother, Fu Jian, didn't fear his elder brother and sneered, "Fu Hua, don't put on airs of the family head just because you are the oldest. With father critically ill, you left on your own and brought a stranger here. Do you really regard father at all? If this is how you behave when father is merely ill, I really cannot imagine what you would do if father were to pass away." Being blasted so bluntly by Fu Jian, Fu Hua responded, face pale, "Teacher Shen is a close friend of father's. He came to see father specially when he learned of his serious condition. Given father's critical condition, he should not be disturbed by any visitors, even if they are father's close friends." In Fu Jian's view, Fu Hua bringing someone over at such a critical juncture must have something to do with the inheritance. No matter what Fu Hua tried to do, he must object to it. Shen Yuan continued to follow the flow of the yin cold chi with his eyes. As for the brothers arguing and the overt and covert struggle for inheritance, he couldn't even bother to glance at it. His gaze finally landed on the second floor. Shen Yuan proceeded towards the stairs. His action startled Fu Jian, who quickly stepped forward to stop him. "What are you trying to?" Boom. Before Fu Jian could even approach Shen Yuan, the yin cold chi enveloping the mansion suddenly intensified. Blood energy surged around Shen Yuan and turned into a raging heat wave, instantly sweeping the entire mansion. This tangible blood energy made Shen Yuan appear like a great sun descending upon a cold region. Fu Jian's movement came to an abrupt halt, and those of the Fu family who had been chattering were now silent, eyes wide open, stunned by the spectacle before them. However, Shen Yuan remained composed, ignoring their thoughts, and ascended to the second floor amidst the increasingly heavy yin cold chi. After stepping onto the second floor, the yin cold chi became even more intense, but behind it was a feeling of emptiness, as if it were a rootless duckweed. Pushing open the doors to the source of the cold air, it was old Master Fu's bedroom. At this moment, he was lying unconscious on the bed, his face withered, his body like a tree on the verge of dying, emitting a sense of decay. Shen Yuan's eyes were sharp, and his gaze immediately landed on a bronze ancient sword hanging on the wall of the room. "I've found you." Chapter 17, When Will the Pretending End? 1. The ancient bronze sword hanging on the wall is time-worn, its surface cloaked in green rust, even the blade and the scabbard are entirely enveloped by rust. Rather than an ancient sword, it might be more accurate to describe it as a rusty bronze stick. But this unremarkable old sword is, in Shen Yuan's eyes, the source of all the yin cold chi that pervades the mansion. In the sword hilt area covered by rust, beneath the mottled rust spots, one can vaguely see a pattern entirely different from the rest of the sword, a majestic divine dragon sketched out with just a few strokes. This legless divine dragon is coiled above the sword hilt, its eyes closed as if it were slumbering. With each inhale and exhale, it spewed out a vast amount of yin cold chi. The yin cold chi persistently corroded the surrounding space, covering the entire mansion within its domain. And it seemed that old Master Fu's current withered state could be attributed to this bronze ancient sword. Shen Yuan's eyebrows furrowed, about to reach out and take down the bronze ancient sword. But before his palm could touch the sword, a clear hum emanated from the rust-covered sheath. An invisible sword light accompanied by the hum abruptly dispersed from the bronze ancient sword. Shen Yuan barely had time to mobilize the elemental chi refining method to summon his essence element in defense. The sword light effortlessly shattered Shen Yuan's defense, leaving a scar on his palm. What a fierce sword! Expression of seriousness surfaced on Shen Yuan's face. Shen Yuan retracted his extended right hand, his essence element circled around making the scar healed rapidly, not even a drop of blood overflowed. Even so, Shen Yuan began to be leery of the bronze ancient sword. With the spirit energy tidal surge just having returned, even if some hidden sects have preserved valuable magical treasures, the current world environment is difficult for these treasures to showcase their power. Yet, this bronze ancient sword could swallow the scant spirit energy of this realm, creating a domain of yin cold chi that enveloped the entire mansion. And when Shen Yuan actively reached out to touch it, the sword even counterattacked. This was proof of its extraordinary power. If it can maintain such power even after 3,000 years of spirit energy depletion, I suppose I wouldn't even have the privilege to approach this sword during its peak stage. Magical treasure? Spirit treasure? Or even a superior Taoist artifact? Shen Yuan couldn't help but become curious about the bronze ancient sword's origin. In the diaries that Shen Yuan obtained from the Falling Clouds Grotto Heavens, someone mentioned the Cultivation World's division of magical treasures quality 10,000 years ago. From low to high were magic artifacts, magical treasures, spirit treasures, Taoist artifacts, and immortal magical treasures in legend. Ordinary cultivators could only grasp the limit of magic artifacts, while magical treasures and spirit treasures were in the hands of superior cultivators in the world. Even the Falling Clouds sect, which birthed an almighty earth immortal 10,000 years ago, its sect's treasure was nothing more than the mysterious microcosm metaphysics furnace that had been worshipped for thousands of years. The bronze ancient sword before him managed to survive the era of spirit energy depletion with such power preserved. Its quality is undoubtedly extraordinary. During Shen Yuan's futile attempt to take down the bronze ancient sword, the people from the Fu family gradually recovered from their shock and hurried up to the second floor room one after another. Having learned his lesson, Fu Jian refrained from offending Shen Yuan again and turned his head to gesture Fu Hua to negotiate with Shen Yuan. Fu Hua walked to Shen Yuan's side and carefully started, "Teacher Shen, about my father's illness." Shen Yuan interrupted him before he could finish his sentence. "Old Master Fu is not ill. It's caused by this bronze ancient sword hanging on the wall." Bronze ancient sword? Fu Hua couldn't help but pause, following Shen Yuan's gaze towards the wall. "The bronze ancient sword you're referring to? Isn't it in this room?" As soon as the words left his mouth, a crease formed between Shen Yuan's eyebrows, an ominous premonition rising in his heart. "You all can't see the ancient sword hanging on the wall?" Fu Hua blankly shook his head, and the other Fu family members standing behind him also looked at the wall with puzzled expressions. Shen Yuan's stern rebuke just now made them realize Shen Yuan's exceptional abilities, so they didn't harbor any suspicion towards Shen Yuan. However, in their line of sight, there were no decorations on the wall, let alone the bronze ancient sword mentioned by Shen Yuan. Things seemed to be getting interesting. Shen Yuan gave the bronze ancient sword on the wall a meaningful glance before turning his gaze towards the people of the Fu family. This bronze ancient sword, despite its profundity, was severely damaged and certainly did not have the ability to appear in this room out of thin air. It must have been intentionally brought here by someone. In the recent test, even Shen Yuan, who had entered the middle stage of essence refining, was unable to take down this bronze ancient sword, let alone an ordinary person touching it. Therefore, the person who brought the bronze ancient sword must possess some kind of method to bypass the damage inflicted by the ancient sword, and is even capable of controlling the ancient sword to a certain extent. Shen Yuan's gaze was like a sharp sword piercing into people's hearts. Any small intention seemed to have nowhere to hide under Shen Yuan's gaze. Everyone where his gaze swept subconsciously lowered their heads, daring not to meet his eyes. Among the crowd, one person was trying hard to regulate their breathing, but their accelerating heartbeat betrayed them. Everyone held their breath and concentrated, waiting for Shen Yuan's response. Unexpectedly, after Shen Yuan scanned the crowd, he walked toward Old Master Fu's bed. Bringing his index finger together, he gently tapped on the forehead of the unconscious Old Master Fu. After a brief examination, Shen Yuan said in an indifferent tone, "It's unsafe in this room. Get ready to move Old Master Fu out first. You Fu family should have other residences in Wen City, right?" "Yes, we do." Fu Hua promptly responded, then called everyone to prepare to move Old Master Fu out of the room. However, just as everyone was preparing to help the unconscious Old Master Fu leave, Old Master Fu lying on the sickbed suddenly opened his eyes weakly. What are you trying to do?" The old voice sounded from his throat, like a broken wooden door constantly making a grating sound, piercing, and filled with a sense of decay. "Teacher Shen came to see you, and even found the cause of your illness. Everything will be solved as long as you move from here." Fu Hua explained patiently. "Leave?" Old Master Fu's voice instantly became sharper, a hint of ferocity showing on his aged face. "No. I won't leave here. I can already feel my illness starting to improve." Old Master Fu's refusal was unusually resolute. Fu Hua looked awkwardly at Shen Yuan. "Teacher Shen, can we stay here?" Shen Yuan nodded with a smile, but the next moment he suddenly stretched out his right hand, grabbed Old Master Fu's head on the sickbed, and smashed it hard against the solid wooden bedhead. A large hole was smashed into the solid wood bed. The huge noise shook the entire room. Then, the horrified voices of the Fu family rang out. Stop! What are you doing? Let go of old Master Fu. Shen Yuan didn't move, he only looked at the head buried in the shattered wood and asked with a smile, how long are you going to keep pretending?